Who's back there on that?
Okay, good, okay.
Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm just listening to my.
That's okay.
I'm just.
Okay, okay.
This is our ghost stuff. You want a giant ghost on our front lawn.
Okay. Oh, they bought a giant wall ghost. It's that big skeleton thing. Did you see that? The big skeleton?
Well, we probably would have got that this one.
And we have a ghost.
We have a ghost. It's
What do
blue.
we do?
And it flutters all over. I'm like, you better tie that down. And what is planning on that? My kids are living with me, well, they're at your house.
Oh, okay.
You have toys everywhere.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. This is like fun. It doesn't sound like fun. I mean. Good, okay.
We can have a plan for that.
Why not that? Let's give it to you. It's not like a rush.
Yeah, the requirement is, for over 7 days.
Oh, right. Oh.
So we used to have a. Or the department.
Hey, Jerry.
Waiting to go and move on opening. They're not doing any promotion for those. They're doing people are running for them. But they are not looking to do us. Right, for a little while. Yeah. So, yeah. So I must be listening to the now, so I'm all back. Once we look at the fact I don't like those. Yes, I responded to that. Maybe he wasn't talking to that. He actually yeah, here's what I want to have.
Yeah.
So, you already have Main Street, spring away. Yeah. I'm talking about the bullshit there.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at it, it's kind of funny. Someone, supposedly, like next door, and it was supposedly targeting to would be pizza. Yeah, but that's what I heard. Maybe you can find out. You have to figure out. You're finding out.
I know.
Sometimes I'll talk to you more in detail.
Okay.
And all of this.
No, this is-
I
I waste more time. Oh, yeah.
That's very good. Thank you.
Sounds good, thank you. When I meet
I gotta cut it really short, so it makes me look younger, and then I just let it go for like one, and I'm waiting.
You always look young.
I'm only fresh. But you know, it's
Just kids.
yeah. I cut it short and then let it.
Yeah.
grow.
Good times.
You know.
Good I gotta get organized. Yeah. 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 I brought my car. I just brought it, I didn't forget it. Yeah.
You talk about kicking a can.
Okay, good. Ready.
We don't know.
There's a corporate rain, got it, got it. Yeah.
Oh, so there's like.
Stay high. Yeah. You know, whatever, right away, you can put it there. Right? Yeah.
Another ranking on the too. No, we're in 14. Simple question.
Yes.
That's why I'm not sitting at.
Oh,
I'm telling you, I was really having this moment.
right. You know, it's. We're trying to figure something out here too.
I knew that was a simple one.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I got that, yeah. Okay.
And I printed out 450 for everybody. I don't know what you're gonna do with it tonight.
We're gonna keep.
That's, I kind of
Yeah.
figured, but I figured you might want a copy of it, so you don't have to.
That's a great idea. That was good. Thanks. You have it right there. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Like 100 pages.
Yeah. 70, same me the name. Good evening.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome. Right. It's like.
Wait.
An amendment, yeah. Okay. So he'll let us know, right? Quick one, right?
Councilman, how was Cape May? As bad as I would think it would have been?
The weather was not great, yes, but we had a very wonderful development because the storm was bad. And because of the storm, the surface crazy.
Yeah,
But
it was here too.
there was a lull in the storm and my son and his bride, where we go onto the beach with these crazy waves as a backdrop.
That's it.
They got breathtaking pictures.
Wow.
It's like God smiled upon them.
Yeah, that is.
That's amazing.
So they were- they were
photos are
they had
good.
this storm.
Yeah.
I mean, rain.
But it was good, nice family.
And that one moment they got out there.
I mean, I just thought it was unfortunate
Oh,
how,
there we go.
Yeah.
for what you were
And
doing.
the son that got married. He met. How cool is that shot? Oh, wow.
Actually, this that as a, website.
Yeah. That'd be really.
One of their sample. shots.
Yeah, it's so president.
How are you?
We veterize these city quarters.
Everybody has a copy of the report that you can see. I put everybody up.
Can't remember if it's-
And you were right, 14, or it's 14, I have this having a silly moment, nobody had it in their packets. Sorry about that.
I didn't think so. Cause I keep it together, I don't.
I don't know what I
They
was
just
thinking.
didn't get to that point.
I think it was like 6:30, my brain was just like.
Well, that's why doing this at the,
It's okay.
should have
That's
been this
all right.
Friday night,
We got it all. I got it break down.
Friday night lights. Greg said he's gonna be here at 6:34, but well, we could well. Yeah. I think we should start it. What time? Um,
Okay, then, yeah.
Just got this like an hour ago. Okay.
I wouldn't have an issue with that. I thought it was coming out sometime. I got
I
the.
just wanted to get it out for people to see what would have it, but yeah, I kind of figured. it would go
Have that
in that
discussion
direction.
with Greg at the
Yeah,
time,
you
but
need-
I just think our first thing is gonna be.
I would agree.
Piece here.
We met on 4 or 5 things Thursday morning, and I got the impression this was gonna be complete, and that's not what held it up. Because of 4 or 5 things we reviewed. Nothing burger. We'll start then at 6:30. We'll get on that discussion table before you get to.
Long time no speak. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Go too far, man. Okay, it is 6:30. Let's rock and roll. Yeah, Greg's gonna be here in 3 or 4 minutes. We can get started. We should start on time. Pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I wish to announce that the 48-hour notice was required under the Open Public Meetings Act was emailed to the Asbury Park Press, the Coast Star, and the New Coaster on December the 13th of 2022. That a copy has been placed on the bulletin board in the borough office and that a copy has been filed with the borough clerk. Mr. Marco? Present. Mr. Noble? Here. Mr. Gubatose?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
Mayor Fox?
Here. Second. Here. Okay, good evening, everybody. Just give me 1 second to orientate here. Welcome to our 17th meeting of the year. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to continue to try to work the problems of the community and come up with good solutions. Although we have no workshops tonight, we have potentially 2 ordinance introductions. We may discuss one as a table, and we have an introduction. I'm sorry, an adoption. The introductions are around portable storage units and chapter 450, and the adoption is around amending chapter 365 on rental units. So as we get into that, and I'm gonna buy a little bit of time, Mark, because our borough attorney is 3 minutes away, I think. I do want to mention that tonight is our interim business administrator, Greg Fehrenbach's last council meeting at the helm of where he is sitting and what he's doing. I'm sure he's going to come as a resident just for the sheer joy. But this is his last council meeting. So I want to make a couple comments and then we can go right into the agenda. Greg stepped up and really stepped in on March 1st and provided us some invaluable service to Bradley Beach. His expertise, his willingness to roll up his sleeves one more time was credited, I think it's a credit to his character and his competence. So as I thought about Greg and I took a look at his CV, his resume, I'm just gonna go through, this is gonna sound like a Billy Joel's, he didn't start the fire kind of song. So from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Easton, Pennsylvania, to Moorestown, New Jersey, to Ocean Township, to East Brunswick, to New Brunswick, to Lakewood, to Piscataway, to Sussex County. And then on an interim management basis, Plainsboro, Perth Amboy, Livingston, Montclair, Maplewood, Edison, Highland Park, Englewood, Tenafly, and the New Jersey League of Municipalities. Greg has touched all those either communities or agencies. And if he operated the same way he operated here for the last 7 months, I'm sure that they got some tremendous value from his expertise and his guidance. So, you know, a real journey that I could see and a real legacy that I'm very glad that you ended up in Bradley Beach as you have on, I will give your address out, Greg. But I think I speak for everybody here that I really want to give my heartfelt thanks to Greg for his service and leadership to the community. So really, thank you very much, Greg. I don't want to get too mushy. Okay, we have no workshop discussions. On presentations and bids, we also do not have anything. We have the approval of minutes, the September 13, 2023 business meeting minutes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the September 13, 2023 council business meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Ms. DeNoble?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, we would then go to public comments pertaining to the agenda. 5-minute limit and limit your items to the agenda. Any questions on the agenda? Yes.
I have one question regarding the buildings. On page 10, Liberty lines and steel coating. It said paint curves yellow and it said restripe Main and Ocean Avenue. Now, are these two, are they county or, state highways? Or roads, one part of state, a highway or a road,
Ocean Avenue is a county road.
a county, and then what about Main Street?
Main Street is a state road.
Okay, and then, well, and then we're paying $5,550 for road repairs. Is there any possibility we can qualify for a reimbursement from the state or the county for this money?
I'm gonna,
May I respond?
yes, I was already pointing in your direction.
Frankly, that detail I wasn't familiar with. Now that I'm familiar with it, I will look into it. I don't particularly understand why it reads stripe. I know that they did curb markings in that area on both of those roadways. Those would not be eligible for reimbursement because of the fact that that is something that is local, that has been done within the municipality, not something that is either state required or done by the state. But I will have to find out why it indicates striping as opposed to curb painting.
Because we really didn't do any, I'm not aware of any striping on Main.
I'm not aware of either, but yeah, that is what it says.
And again, I plead ignorance on all of this, but I'm trying to learn and understand. But we still did something to these streets, correct?
Well,
Did we have to get permission to do it on a state or county highway?
On the curbing, I am not familiar with any requirement to get an approval or to be able to get reimbursed for the cost of doing what is requested by the police department and executed by the public works department. But it is the striping of those roads that you have raised a concern on my part, and I will look into that. and
Okay,
get back
thank
to
you. But just one more question. Why is it restriped? When was that faulty and they had to redo it again?
Well, I can say to you that the curbing had previously been painted. It had faded. And the request from the Department of Police to Public Works was to repaint so as to make sure the cars were not parking too close to the intersection.
Okay. Is that true? Okay, that's fine. I'm just curious. When was it previously painted that it, it faded so quickly? I don't know the life expectancy of painting. I don't know. Okay.
Thank you.
Good question. Thank
Any
you.
other question?
Can I ask a question about that really quick? it- I know it seems like a lot of the curbs, Greg, were painted, the yellow curbs were painted, but this company is only charging us for 2 roads. It seems like all these yellow curbs all over town were just painted. So is this a different company or?
No, it's the same company and they've done them throughout town. That may just be the shorthand that the Department of Public Works used when they put in the purchase requisition.
Because it says Ocean and Main, so it would, one would think we're gonna get another bill that's the rest of the town, and that's $5,000 to do 2 roads. Maybe. We got a lot of roads.
I would guess the 5,500 is for everything.
My understanding is it was for everything.
So can we just all be on the lookout for some, painted, like, it would be just like, the beach has it 3 months from now, we get another bill and it's for the rest of the town because this one was only Ocean and Main. If we can look into that, that would be terrific. I appreciate it.
Okay,
You and Mrs. Sushius will receive a response
yes,
Thank you.
by
Yes.
going into government.
yes.
Nancy Meadow, Ocean Park condominiums. My recollection is the curbs were painted in the spring and they were repainted recently. I know this because I have yellow on my street and I saw it painted twice. Page 3 of the bill is $199. And maybe it's not your page 3 because my bill is all convoluted and not correctly arranged. I know they're only $199, but the fact that we paid for body language expert is somewhat alarming to me personally. I also understand that the bill list you're gonna pay no matter what. The missing services. However, again, this is backwards, and I turn to the legislators to correct this backwards situation of do work, pay, approve. You approve first and then you get the work done. I also think for all of the seminars that we pay for so many people, it would be helpful to know who attends. And maybe sometimes they could come and present to us what was learned during these seminars. Because if there was anyone in this room who learned about body language recently, or I shouldn't say learned, I should say, who was at something about body language recently, I don't think they learned it. Also on page
Well, just a second on that, Ms.
Meadow,
Meadow, I think, this body language deal, I think is a police training deal, is it not, Lieutenant?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
I would have to, for Mr. Fairlock knows, or we look into it. They do have classes at the police academy that we do send officers to.
Right.
There was something similar to that, I think, for the police officers. It's possible that one of the newer officers was sent to something like that. 'Cause that is important in police work.
Yeah. absolutely. Okay,
So but I don't want to say yes because I don't know for sure. But I want to say, very confident that was a police training class.
Yep.
At the academy.
And it is paid out of the police budget.
yeah, thank you. Yes.
and who funds the police budget? Us, we the
Yeah.
people. So, I'd like a few minutes back, please. Page 13, I believe. $17,000 for PR and our website. How nauseating is that? Especially at a time where we have no money. And we have a website that doesn't function. Just mind-boggling to me.
Page 11.
Page 11?
Yep.
I'm sorry, there's something else on page 15 is, again, but I love that correction. Look, I'm here, no notes, I don't read, I'm prepared. Thank you for correcting me. Good, so you can see it. I don't know how to continually say to you people, stop spending money. So there's another bill coming for PR and our website, cancel the order now. Start legislating. Because I don't know how you get in bed at night and don't worry about money. Thank you. I didn't even need my extra minutes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue, resolution 2023-241. You're changing the garbage collection. This is like another recyclable. I mean, there was no workshop. If people don't know, people don't read the agenda, they have no idea. This is the most unbelievable thing. We just keep making the same mistakes over and over. So now, if you take away these holidays, Monday's the pickup for Main Street, the restaurants, all that garbage sits out until Friday now. The north end is the one that gets hurt. The south end, no problem, we can pick up on Tuesday. Workshop it, let people come. I would advise you to table that immediately. Also on resolution number 2023-223, there is a typo here, maybe it's intentional, but it says, whereas the general election held on November 8th, over 76% of the borough's voters polled negatively. That's not a factual statement. You're counting people who didn't poll with the people who did poll. So you better go back and look at that. That number is 100% wrong. I advise you to table this until you straighten that one out. The next one, I want to thank you for doing the storage units and dumpsters. You know, we've had a number of people here complain over the time about the use of the dumpsters as way stations for other jobs. So lastly, Mr. Fernbach, the comment about the county roads, you weren't aware that Ocean Avenue was a county road?
Yes.
Oh, you were? Okay, now, but we maintain their roads. Is that what you're telling me? Like, we strike their stuff and they don't reimburse us?
Apparently I wasn't clear. I said I was surprised by the use of the term striping.
Oh, okay.
My understanding is that it was the painting of curbing that was taking place. And that would be something that neither the county nor the state would typically do. It is something that municipalities do.
Well, on a county road, the county has their own striping crew. Matter of fact, they strike Brindley Avenue, which is a county road.
I'm differentiating between striping and painting of curbs. Okay? And what I'm
Okay.
saying is that I do not believe we striped either Ocean Avenue or Main Street,
Okay,
but that we painted curbs in those locations.
okay, but painting curbs, isn't that part of their maintenance of their road?
As I just said, I am not familiar with counties or state painting curbing, but municipalities do.
But they do, okay, I mean, it would have been worth a phone call to save $5 grand if they could have done it when they were out here to do Brindley Avenue. I mean, it's, you know, it's simple. They have a whole, we're paying taxes to them, we're paying taxes to you, and we're duplicating services here. That's my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I may, the point I'm trying to make is that the curb work is not something that they do. And if you pay attention to all of the various streets around the municipality, you will find yellow curb in a number of those places.
Absolutely.
And we had that company doing it on a number of local streets.
Mhm.
So it was not just Main and Ocean. It was, as I understand it, throughout the entire community.
Okay, great, but nobody called the county to see if we could get reimbursement from the beginning, like, hey, we're gonna do this project. Just like tonight, you're gonna get a presentation from TNM. You know, I'm sure you called New Jersey American Water and said, hey, guys, we're gonna be cutting the road, do you have any work to do? You know, you kind of coordinate, you didn't contact them and say, hey, we're gonna do this, will you reimburse us, or will you do the work?
I'm not saying they didn't.
Okay,
I'm simply saying I don't have that answer.
okay.
Thank you. Yes.
On the bill list, what is the, oh, sorry, that's okay, that's all right, Kristen Mahoney, 200 Lorraine Avenue.
Thank you.
On the bill list, what is the FEMA sign for $9,000? FEMA signing.
Ma'am?
Sure.
In 2012, when Sandy took place.
Yeah.
The department, FEMA advanced municipalities money based upon estimates that they provided of work that was going to be done, they believe. There have been audits taking place since that period of time. And FEMA is reclaiming $9,000 for activity and work that was not done, but for which money was advanced to the municipality. The municipality held those funds, I shouldn't say those funds, held some funds in reserve for a final accounting to be completed by FEMA. This is a reimbursement to FEMA for monies they paid to the municipality that the municipality has held since 2012, 2013, for work that the municipality never performed.
So they gave us money, but we never used it.
We didn't need to use it, and so it wasn't used.
Okay. And then I see the 6,900 for tourism development for what I guess is the Latin Fest. Which
What page is that on?
that is on page 19. Was that event sanctioned by tourism? Does anybody know?
It was not.
It was not.
Well, it was sanctioned by the municipality.
It was sanctioned by the municipality.
Yes.
Okay, okay. And on the final page, our fiscal year runs from when to when?
January 1st to December 31st.
Okay, and I'm not an accountant. So on the final page, on page 20, we have the budget total, revenue, GL total, GAMOS total, and total. Why is the final column of total not a total of how much has been spent YTD as opposed to, why are the numbers in budget total and total the same? Why don't we have a running YTD total? So we can see how much we've spent to date as opposed to just a repetition of budget total and total.
All I can say is the Edmunds report doesn't produce it that way.
I mean, that would be really helpful because the trust fund, which is the tourism fund, we have a lot of questions about how much money we're spending, and now I just see a repetition. So maybe the new business administrator, whoever that is, could possibly work on, or whoever does the numbers could work on getting a total for all these numbers and how much we're spending to date. So we can get some clarity to see how much money we're spending out of all these areas, because having the total down twice doesn't give us any clarity on what, what our spend is. I would assume there'd be some way to get that done. I don't know what kind of software you're using, but that, I think as a community, that would be really helpful for us to see how much money we're actually spending on a year ahead, go to basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
On the champion 411.5 Lorraine. I also want to comment on the resolution 2023-2E3. Mr. Cohen pointed out that the numbers are not factual. The language in general is not logical. You're basing your resolution on whereas that don't add up. You're saying, whereas in the general election held on November 8, 2022, over 76% of borough voters polled negatively in response to the non-binding referendum question, and whereas per the results of the referendum, borough seeks to demolish the vacant structures located upon the property. The resolution itself has nothing to do with demolition. The language of the resolution, which is above, says, should the borough of Bradley Beach renovate its borough-owned real property, currently vacant structure located at 319 Lorraine Avenue, block 40 and lot 1, in order to create a municipal community center at an estimated cost of $10 million. That's all the resolution said. Now, a majority voted not to spend $10 million to convert the church into a community center. That's all that referendum said. It has nothing to do with demolition. It doesn't hint at demolition. As a matter of fact, we've been advocating since the referendum to have a workshop on alternatives. There are many alternatives, as you know, in addition to demolition of the structure. The building itself could be renovated at a much lower price just to bring it into livable and usable condition. It could be turned into a park. It could be sold as is to somebody who wants to preserve it. These are all alternatives that you promised we would have a discussion on, a workshop on, in January. It's never happened. So why, again, I keep repeating this, I feel like a broken record. Why do we keep talking demolition, demolition, demolition? Where is the discussion on the alternatives? I would think that we should have that discussion before we spend any money on an engineering firm to plan demolition. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Brigitte McGuire, 610 Brinley Ave. First I wanted to ask, the 17,000 for that PR website, can I ask what specifically was done for that 17,000?
I think it delineates it on the bill list.
It wasn't off of the website. It says 11,006 was to improve social media and website, and then.
So we developed.
It was for interface and implement new website.
So we developed a new website. We did social media training for all of our commissions, committees. We developed social media personnel policies and practices and implemented those. Also, put a control process in for website, Facebook, and that link up.
What's the approval? What is supposed to be approval for 11,000?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Didn't it say approval for 11,000?
Social media and website.
So what's approving, like what entails approving social media and website?
Actually, that as we got into the new website, as we got into getting ourselves compliant with social media, that resource reviewed all those things and ensured we were not out of compliance. There's compliance issues with social media, with websites, how you operate those.
And that costs $11,000.
Over a period of a year, the person would operate for a year for us.
And they'll just keep checking it over a year's time, you mean, like to make sure it's consistently.
Well, really
compliant?
the implementation process was over a year, getting people trained, getting people up to speed. Yeah.
Okay, the 6,900 for an event municipality did that came out of tourism. How do we straighten this out? Like, what's the point of the tourism commission with its own ordinances and not signing off on money and not having even the plan to have an event and then, or have an event of that, with that entertainment for that price, and then the municipality just overriding that against the commission, against the ordinance, and then just taking money out of tourism to pay a municipal event?
Yeah, there's several issues that we're gonna work through with tourism and events. There's some ordinance changes that have to take place, and there's some alignment between different people that schedule and organize those things. So we are looking at that.
Okay,
By the way, on that particular note, the mayor alone is looking at that. The rest of us are raising the same questions you're raising. So we don't know what's happening with tourism, and we've asked that question repeatedly.
okay, thank you. based on these questions regarding money and the bills list and consistently bringing up questions about the bills lists, what can we as residents ask for to get more clarity? You know, we have trust issues here. I have trust issues here. I don't trust 17,000 legitimately went to a social media person. I don't trust how 6,900 was paid for that event. I don't trust anything. How do I start getting, like, how do I get to see the numbers of the $16,000 I pay in tax dollars, how it's being spent? My taxes went up $1,300 from this year's increase. It's a lot of money. And if I don't get to have clarity around these prices, like, okay, why do we spend 17? Oh, because of this, this and that. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go sit down now. No, I have trust issues and I need more proof. I need proof. I don't want explanations anymore. I don't want circle talk anymore. I want proof. How do we as residents get that? Besides an audit, and is that even happening yet?
You have questions about the agenda?
Well, yeah, I had questions about the bills list and I had questions about, and it's because of these questions that I'm asking, is an audit taking place?
Yes, there it is, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And T&M, that's on the agenda today. Did we get other bids? Because wasn't that a conversation that's been happening? What?
Yes, we did. We got 3 RF requests for proposal, yes, and we reviewed those all and met with each one of those companies.
Okay, but we only get one presentation? How
We're
does
not
that
getting
work?
any presentation. We are proposing a resolution to hire one of those based on the fact that we reviewed all 3 proposals with myself, the business administrator and Councilman Gupatosi.
Okay, so T&M was decided
That's who we're
and then
proposing.
today it gets voted on, is
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Good evening, Linda Duffy, 312 Brennan. I lost my pen. I am in favor of this garbage reduction in the holiday schedule because it is, I lived in many places and we never had an issue. I don't know if they have to restructure what they pick up on Main Street because of the restaurants and stuff. I'm not even sure who picks up that garbage because I've never been up there with stuff. But my question is, will the garbage pickup resume on your next scheduled day? It doesn't say that.
That's the case, right, Chris? Yes, it will, yes.
It needs to say that in the ordinance then, so people know. And there's one garbage pickup on a holiday, after the holiday, that says the whole borough will get picked up. Why is that? I think it's, I want to say New Year's. I don't have my calendar in front of me.
I don't think we,
Maybe it's a Wednesday when they. do
It says both zones.
that's recycling.
Recycling, they do.
It doesn't say that on the calendar. Maybe our calendar.
Oh,
needs,
maybe it's a calendar issue, yeah.
update. And the other question I have is the dumpster, ordinance and resolution that we're talking about tonight. When they have to reapply for an extension, aren't they being charged another dumpster fee for the permit or not?
That's what's presently happening.
It doesn't say that. That's why I was asking. Does it say that? Because I read through that and I didn't see it there. If they need an extension for the dumpster, do they have to not reapply, get approved, but repay the permit? Because they're actually using 2 permit blocks. When you think about it. Does-
They currently-
Is it in that language though?
Don't have it open in front of me, I can certainly check on it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see anybody else, so we will move to the next agenda item. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mary Backstrom, 218 Park Avenue, Upper Beach. If I'm wrong about this, shut me down, it's fine. But in terms of the holiday pickup for trash, I guess conceptually, I don't have an issue with that, but what's that based on? Have we done a study on which holidays or the 9 holidays we used to have
generate the most trash, and we focused on the three that are the most, and the other six are not. I mean, where do we get to that? How do we get there?
I respond.
Sure, but, yeah, go ahead, Greg.
The
Yeah,
first thing is that the governing body was looking for the identification of ways in which money might be able to be saved in 2023 and 2024. We went out to the various departments seeking suggestions, ideas that they may have. One of the ones that came back was this particular one. The department did a calculation based upon their experience earlier in 2023 and in 2022 to identify what the cost would be for the overtime under the union contract to be able to determine what we were spending that wouldn't need to be spent. They also provided information on the amount of trash that was being picked up on those days. And those days tended to be the 6 that we've identified, the lowest ones. And the Memorial, Independence, and Labor Day were higher ones. And it was decided tentatively, at least by those who are reviewing it at various stages, that would have the least adverse impact on residents and taxpayers, and that it would be a way of being able to save funds with a little reduction in services.
Well, thank you, that's helpful. I guess for me, I would think the holiday that generated the most trash was Christmas.
No.
No? No?
All I can say is that that's not what they came back with. And frankly, Christmas apparently has not had a collection for several years.
But they're gonna collect on Tuesday or Thursday after Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Alright. That's fine. Okay, I'm not sure how you got to the data. I'm not here to dispute it. It's just that, my only suggestion is, money saving techniques, I'm all for it. But can we do a study to see if this makes sense, that residents don't feel like they're being deprived of things, and look at the cost benefit, right? Is it still costing too much to pay people overtime versus the benefit of residents having their stuff picked up? That's all I ask.
And I think that's what we determined in the analysis we were doing, yes, so, thank you. Okay, if there's nobody else, we're gonna move to the next agenda item, which is second here, sorry. We have 2 ordinance introductions. I think the first, chapter 450, it's pretty extensive. It's about 70 pages. I don't think everybody's had the opportunity to get through the whole thing from an introduction standpoint. So, Councilman Weber, you wanted to make a suggestion on that?
Yeah, I will make the suggestion, but in mentioning that we may table this tonight, you said that you met with, I guess, the attorney on Thursday and discussed 4 or 5 really minor changes. So what, I just want to know what those changes are.
I sent those to you in a memo,
Okay, when was that?
last Thursday afternoon or Friday.
Okay,
They were minor. I mean, they
Understood.
weren't like move the earth kind of things.
that's why I couldn't find anything, because I didn't realize that you sent it. I knew somebody sent me something. So yeah, it's 70 pages, but I don't know, this is like 2-sided. It's a lot, and we just got this afternoon, so I was just making a suggestion that we table it.
Okay, make that motion.
I will make the motion that we table ordinance 2023-12, changes to chapter 450.
I'll second. Ms. DeMarco?
Yes.
Ms. DeNoble?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
For those of us who are really good speed readers, we don't necessarily see a need to table this. However, I will vote yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, 2023-13 ordinance, amending chapter 348, portable storage units and dumpsters of the borough's revised general ordinances to update the regulations pertaining to the same. I'll ask for any council comments on 2023-13.
Okay, well, so Councilwoman DeNovo and I worked on this. We actually jumped in with what I would describe now in hindsight as a very aggressive approach. We thought these dumpsters are terrible things and they're blights in the neighborhoods of Bradley Beach, and what can we do to better manage them, better control them? And we actually started out going down a path where we would place greater restrictions on the length of time. Instead of allowing a permit for a month, which is where we started, where the ordinance sits today, we had said get a weekly permit up to 4 times. And then beyond that, there would be some discretion with our code enforcement. And I share this with you to let everyone know that we do often listen to our experts, and our experts, the chief and our code enforcement folks said, you guys are a little crazy. That's just not the way the real world works. And
construction too.
And construction, that's right. After a couple of sessions on this, we came full circle on some of the, what I would describe as some of the more aggressive things that we've actually come back largely to say dumpsters can be permitted for with 1 permit up to a month, and then they can be extended for a month. And that's basically where we are today. So that one change, even though we spent a lot of time on it, we ended up not making a change. On the other hand, we did not in our current ordinance attempt to deal with or address portable dumpsters where folks can kind of drive up, the company can drive up and have a dumpster on wheels and they leave it for just a couple of days. Those individuals, that's preferable to the community if we can have somebody come in and leave it for a couple of days and then leave, rather than dump a big dumpster in the street and right away for up to a month. So one of the changes that we did incorporate was to allow 2 days of a portable dumpster to be left in the street without a permit. And the idea being, as long as we are aware, the borough is aware and they're monitoring this, hopefully this will facilitate a more active movement of some of the dumpster activity and minimize the amount needed on the streets. One other thing, top of my head, we had some significant back and forth about we have existing language that talks about dumpsters cannot be in the front envelope of a property. So they can be in the right of way with permitting, and they can be in the back or on the side of your property, not in the front yard. And one of the things that Mr. Cannon actually suggested to us based on experience he has and others on our committee agreed was we probably should allow those dumpsters that are not permitted in the front envelope. If there really is no space, backyard or side yard, we've incorporated some language that would allow them to be placed in the driveway. Even if the driveway is considered to be part of the front envelope, the reason for that is better to be in the driveway than to be in the right of way, which they would have the ability to get a permit for. So rather than have it in the street, it's still better to have it on the driveway, even if it's in the front yard envelope. That was the logic. So those are top of my head, a couple of the key changes.
Well, does Greg have any notes for us or did you?
No, you guys pretty much covered it all.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
Any other comments on this introduction? So I would move to
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, one last comment, just for the public's benefit. We also did discuss that you can have dumpsters in your backyard. Basically, it was set up to be somewhat indefinitely because it's your backyard. We did put what I would call modest limitations on that I believe Mr. Cannon, it's allowed, you get a permit, or you don't even need a permit, but it's allowed 4 months.
You have to get an inspection every 4 months.
And then with an inspection to follow.
Because we obviously can't see it right from the street.
Right, so we do have the ability for our code to monitor dumpsters in the backyard, which we didn't have previously. But again, we didn't want to be draconian. We just want to make sure that folks didn't get lazy and leave dumpsters in the backyard forever. Sorry, that was the last.
okay. Okay, so we will, I'll ask if we can close on comments on 2023-12. And I'll make a motion to approve 2023-12 for introduction.
It's a 13.
13, I'm sorry,
13.
we skipped 12, yeah, sorry, 13. Got a second?
Second,
Ms. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mrs. Noble?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
yes,
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, we'll move to a public hearing and vote for adoption on ordinance 2023-14, which is an ordinance amending chapter 365 rental properties in the borough's revised general ordinances. To reenact certain rentals overlapping the school year. We'll first start with council comments and then we'll ask for public comments on this. Any council comments on this ordinance?
very, very quick comment. I think I referenced this in our last meeting as well, but this is just a correcting an oversight in the last amendment we made to chapter 365. Our original ordinance had a protection for basically renters who had school-age children that were attending our school during the school year. And that one provision, that one subsection required that the property with school-age children be rented, not be rented basically for short term beyond the during the school year period. So I'm butchering the language, but the language basically was good language. It already existed. By accident, we collectively struck it along with massive other pieces of the old ordinance that we did intend to strike. And we realized in hindsight, as we were adopting our amendments, that we had inadvertently struck that one paragraph. So this is just putting back that one paragraph to protect school-age children.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other, if there's no other council comments, I'll make a motion to open for public comments, ordinance 2023-14, and ask to limit comments to 3 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second,
Ms. DeMarco?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
yes,
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes.
Oh, my brain tonight.
taking things up.
Yeah.
Okay, so any questions or comments on 2023-14 from there's nothing on the board. Is there anybody in the audience? Okay, if there's no questions, then I will make a motion to close 2023-14 and move to adopt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes,
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, we'll now go to communications. There's one communication on Department of Public Works employee. Number 11, resolutions, consent and individual. On the consent agenda, we have one consent agenda item, the bill list for September. So, yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I actually.
Actually, I have to say September 27th, sorry.
I thought you were missing a 2 there.
Yes, I am, sorry.
I'd actually like to make some comments and questions about the bill list. So first to the people that asked questions about the bill list, right on, because I had pretty much the same questions. And with that, page 11, Marion Bellick, the public relations consultant. I specifically remember back in the budget times, back in, I don't know, I guess the spring, March or April or something, Councilman Gubatose specifically asking questions about people like this, people that, were consultants. I'm of the opinion that this administration way overspent last year because they hired a lot of consultants. As you know, most of that did not come before this council. Before these people were hired. And I remember Councilman Gubatose asking about this person and he was told there's no such person. We haven't paid any person like that. We don't have anybody on the payroll. We don't have anybody. I mean, he got answers of that nature. So I don't really understand why in August of 2023, all of a sudden, here she is and we're paying her $17,000. And I will add, in the interim, we have discussed, not paying contractors and things like that over anything over $4,000, public, contracts or professional services is going to come before the council because that's what has been missing in my opinion. But I don't, how does this happen? I don't get it.
First of all, Mr. Gubatose questioned me probably no less than 5 times on that. We went through all of the records. We went through everything to be able to find the names that he was looking for. I can't quite recall, but I think it was possibly 5 names that you wanted me to look into. I believe I was able to find 3, and there were 2 I couldn't find. And this is one of the ones I couldn't find because it didn't exist. It wasn't in the system anywhere. This billing has arrived sometime within the last 2 months. And that is why it appears on the bill list this evening. And there has been a certification that the services have been received. So the reason it is on tonight is because this is the first time that this bill has arrived in a form that it could be here. And during the entire budget process that Mr. Rubitosi and I went through, and he asked me those questions, I didn't have the vaguest idea of who that name was, and when we went through all of the records, that name did not appear.
So are you saying that this person didn't bill us until, like, they billed us for these services since you had those discussions with?
Early in 2023, and at the time, Kim Humphrey, I think the instruction she gave was to pay her from, on the pay, put her on the payroll and pay her. For some reason, that between her being out and transition, that didn't happen. And because it's a 22 bill, we didn't think it was appropriate to put into payroll, so we asked this person to invoice us. That's what happened.
So to be clear, this is from last year?
It's 2022.
So she left in January, if I remember?
Okay, if
That's
this
last-
person, well, if this person left in January, they did the services in 2022, and left in January, and they didn't bill us till, I'm assuming, a couple of months ago, because he was asking these questions in March or April, if I remember roughly around that time.
It was June, actually, Jen, it was later.
Okay, so all I'm saying is that if this person rendered the services in 22, didn't bill us till the second half of 23, it seems like they don't need that $17,000.
No, they billed us, no, the bill, I think what the person was assuming was that she would be paid out of the payroll, and that didn't happen. And again, because it was beyond 2022, we said it's not appropriate, let's pay it on the.
But I'm saying if she could last a year without these $17,000, I'd say maybe Bradley Beach needs this money more than she does, quite frankly. So I would like to,
Well, John, before you even say anything, I'd like to understand, why did she think she was going to be paid out of payroll? I know you weren't here, Mr. Fehrenbach, so I'm directing the question to the mayor.
I said that Kim Humphrey was working with this person, this consultant.
How much did she get paid in 2022?
Nothing that we can find.
Nothing.
So she was there for months and months and months and not one paycheck.
Correct.
like I said, it sounds like she doesn't need the money that bad.
Well, I don't think you can make that comment.
I just did make that comment.
Well, I mean, I don't think you can make that comment in a valid manner, number one, and number two, I guess the other point, Councilman, is you said that we overspent the budget in 2022, we underspent the budget by $700,000.
There was left over in reserve about $780,000.
Right. So please don't give the impression that we overspent the 2022.
We depleted our surplus by 300,000, I think.
Yeah.
Is what was spent, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So
You said so.
I just have lots of questions, like when, I would just want to know dates and who was at these trainings and, like how much time they spent on the personnel policies and how much time they spent on approving social media and website and all this stuff, because, I mean, and if we needed it so bad, like, why don't we still have somebody doing that? I don't think we have anybody doing this now. So-
Because we did not have any policies or procedures. We trained all the commission's committee leads in a couple of sessions. We got aligned to requirements, government under requirements on what you can and can't do on social media, what you can and can't do on websites. We did none of those things before. So this person brought that to bear, did the training, and then monitored that to make sure we were doing it.
But so we don't have anybody approving social media now. So-
One of the reasons is that, for instance, Courtney Pappas was trained by her, worked with her, asked a number of questions, and she's monitoring and handling that.
Well, and there is a
Courtney Pappas is not monitoring for all social media for the town. It just seems like since this
She's
person seems to be related not related, but they only provided services when the former borough administrator was here. And now that that borough administrator is gone, this person's not providing services anymore, so it doesn't seem like we need them that badly. I would just like to approve this bill list with taking this off and getting some questions answered. If we can take this $17,000 off, then I can vote yes on this bill list.
Well, I have other questions on the bill list, but I also agree that I have questions about this invoice, 17,000. As Councilman Weber said, and Mr. Fairclough did everything in his power to locate how we paid this individual last year. I did repeatedly ask it, as you acknowledged. And I kept, in my emails to Mr. Fairclough, I kept saying, I know this person did a lot of work for the borough. I'm not criticizing the work. I'm simply saying, I know she existed. I know we owed her money. And for the life of him, our acting VA could not find one iota of evidence that the woman had billed us for anything, that we paid anything. We're searching her name, a company name, everything. So when this appeared on the bill list today, dated August 1st of 23, I thought, what's happening? We're starting all together to hear the answer to what's happening. I would add that probably unrelated, but at least in my mind, it is related. We hired this website to be built and paid $10,000 at the end of 2021 against my recommendations. We had just previously hired a new website. We had paid them $3,500 for the installation, and I actually thought it was a very solid website. I had an independent assessment of the quality of the website. The original one, 3 versions ago, was rated like a D on an elementary school report card. The new one rated a B+, and this one that was changed without my support was rated a C or a C+. So we actually took a backward step.
I guess that question, you're saying you got an independent.
Yeah, I did. I had an independent.
Well, who was the independent?
It was a free independent assessment that someone volunteered to do for me. They had no skin in the game. And I just simply said,
I'm asking a question. Who did the independent?
doesn't matter, Larry. You think I'm lying?
No,
I
I'm just
gotta give
asking,
you,
I'm
I have to
asking a
give you a
clarifying
name
question.
to prove myself. Well, my clarifying answer is it doesn't matter. What matters is I had an independent assessment. I brought this attention to the prior business administrator, and I was summarily dismissed. I was told that the website that I had helped implement was not compliant with ADA standards. We were paying an extra $3,500 for ADA compliance. My comment at that time was, we paid that extra money, make them ADA compliant. Instead, we went out, paid $10,000 for a new website, and now I see references from this individual's consulting talking about, something interface and implement new website. So my top of my head blew off when I saw this, to tell you the truth, Mr. Fehrenbach. And I am concerned. I'm not at all planning to vote on this tonight, but I would like to have more of an opportunity to understand specifically what this invoice represents in terms of services.
Anybody else? Any other questions on the consent agenda?
Yeah, I do. I had a follow-up on the question asked by the audience, the FEMA, $9,000, Mr. Fehrenbach. I know it was advanced to us and an audit was conducted and we're refunding the amount not spent. Does that 9,000 represent the full amount of the reserves we held, or do we have some excess?
It does not represent the full amount of the reserves. But there is still, how do I put it, ongoing auditing being done by FEMA, and there may be more due. We actually did receive another bill from FEMA, but FEMA responded after we raised a question that they had not completed their audit, and that because of that, that second bill that came in, we should ignore and wait until they completed their audit. So there probably is another shoe to drop on this. It's under the review of the Office of Emergency Management, who managed, the Sandy incident and subsequent to that. We have confirmation that this 9,000 is due. We have no confirmation that anything more is due.
For the benefit of the audience, as we're having this conversation, I think that Mr. Fehrenbach and I are on the same page, but I want to make sure our residents understand. This is not, as I understand it, going to be represented as an expenditure for the borough. This was dollars set aside in a reserve. We put it aside. Now we're releasing that reserve. The reason is so it won't be a new expenditure, against our budget.
That's correct.
I did ask the question, was this the full reserve? Because in the back of my mind, I was wondering, if there's something left over, perhaps the borough would be able to recognize that as revenue. It sounds like we can't. And my final question, Mr. Fehrenbach, on this issue, is your expectation that as they conduct subsequent audits and complete their work, is your expectation that they ultimately will just ask for whatever money back that's left over? Like whatever we show them we spent, they'll give us, but whether there's 2,000 left or 100,000 left, they're gonna ask for the money back?
Had I been here since 2012, I feel comfortable answering that question. Not having been here since then, I would say that for all of us, we simply have to maintain the reserve as it is until we have a determination by FEMA that they are finished with their audit and whatever our final marks are for that audit. And then at that point, if the revenues wish to be anticipated, that would be the appropriate time. And that could be 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah.
I frankly would not have expected that there'd be FEMA audits continuing this late. I was in a different municipality for Sandy. I was involved in about $17 million worth of work done under FEMA. That was 100% funded. That audit work was completed, I'm going to say 4 years ago. So I'm surprised to see that this one is still hanging around.
I just assume federal government, if they gave us money, we didn't use it all, they would just more or less, the process would be to take it all back, whatever's not used. But it sounds like that's not
No,
definite.
that's not what happened here.
Okay, I have another question. I know Ms. DeNoble shares the same question on the tourism expenditure, so do you?
Yeah, I can take that. Just a little backstory on this. August 22nd, Mayor Fox wanted to have the Latin Fest again, like there's been many previous years. Last year, they used a promoter called Willie Will, and they wanted to use them again. It was a cost of $6,900. So the tourism had a quick meeting August 28th, and they thought it was too short notice, too expensive, $6,900. They favored hiring a local band like they did in previous years with a local salsa instructor for approximately $1,200. And they prefer having it during the actual Hispanic Heritage Month, which started September 15th. And despite all that, Mayor Fox single-handedly overrode the commission's decision and went ahead and booked them. And as far as the money being dispersed, according to our ordinance, the commission shall have exclusive authority to disperse all revenues allocated to the fund. So only the commission can disperse funds, not the mayor or the municipal decision, like he said before. So I let him know that I sent an email. I said, you've broken the laws of the borough. You intentionally overrode the commission's authority and knowingly violated our ordinances. And I let him know that please notify the promoter. I will not approve this reckless expenditure when it appears on the bills list like it has today. And the mayor said, please do not, Councilwoman, please do not threaten me. We need to revisit the ordinance, and there's a number of areas that are not being followed appropriately. And I just let them know, to be clear, I did not threaten you. I just merely pointed out your violation and disregard of our ordinances. The event is not sanctioned by the Tourism Commission, and no funds should be removed from the Tourism Trust to pay for this event. So I would like this taken off the bill list because it wasn't a threat, and I am doing it.
Well, there's any number of, and I don't want to get into a whole political conversation on this because, you know,
I'm just saying,
we have,
until the ordinance
excuse me,
is changed, we do have to follow it. What if we do change it?
the ordinance needs to be looked at and followed. I would suggest, Councilwoman, that part of following the ordinance is noticing a meeting, and if you don't notice a meeting and you make decisions in that meeting, basically those decisions are void.
The meeting was noticed 48 hours in advance. It was a special meeting and there was a quorum present.
I think there needs to be more than a 48-hour notice, number one. Number two, even the people that voted on that in that meeting, you can't have a substitute show up for one of the 3 or 4 commission people. So, I mean, we can go back and forth and up and down on this.
Even with the substitute,
Excuse
they had
excuse
4
me,
people.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
talk here. We had a very successful year plus of upgrading our events. We're gonna continue to upgrade our events because we're getting nothing but positive feedback from the businesses in town and the residents on the events. So unfortunately, we have a difference of opinion on this, and we do need to revisit the ordinance. Greg's already looked at the ordinance, Mr. Fehrenbach, and found some holes in it that we need to shore up, so we will be doing that.
I'd like to say on this same topic that the beyond this concern I have about the mayor, maybe not, it seems like overriding the commission. I have a concern about the fact that dollars are being spent out of a trust. And those dollars are supposed to be governed, managed, whatever the word, by this commission. And this commission made specific recommendations to use different entertainment that was local, Latino, local entertainment. And they said to spend closer, something under $2,000 compared to this $6,900. Collectively, this borough has a fiduciary responsibility to manage the dollars in that trust. And this commission is charged with that responsibility. No one, not me, not Mr. Fehrenbach, not the mayor, no one should be overriding that responsibility. So I actually do have almost a legal concern with what transpired on this particular event. And I also am not prepared, when we do vote, to approve this particular line item.
Okay, so somebody want to make a motion on consent
Can I just
agenda?
ask a clarifying question, just
Sure.
for our edification? What are potential consequences if we don't pay bills for services that have already been rendered? And likewise, if, like, say this were to get removed from the tourism trust and be moved over to the general fund, how would that impact our budget this year?
Okay, let me try to answer that first, and Mr. Cannon may need to correct me. In the event that a vendor has received a bona fide request from a municipal official to provide a service, and that party provided the service, the municipality is bound and required to pay that bill in order to meet its contractual obligation. In the event the municipality chooses not to make that payment and causes the vendor to have to engage an attorney to be able to pursue those funds, the municipality could potentially be responsible for those attorney fees in addition to the payment for what needs to be done. There's a context that I think needs to be understood. When I first arrived, and I know some of you realize that I don't have much interest in any of these events that take place, so it's not like I'm speaking from having some skin in the game. Latin Fest, Mediterranean Fest, Park Fest, a variety of items in March were on a schedule. They weren't just on a schedule. There had been contacts made, coordination with vendors, performers, etc. Latin Fest, as a specific example, had a commitment back to March or April to have it take place on this date by this vendor. There was a suggestion that maybe it should be canceled. There were some concerns about what things could or could not be canceled. There were 2 concerts that were scheduled on Sundays, one at the end of August, one at the beginning of September, that were canceled. And they were canceled because we did not have any contractual obligation to continue to use those parties. And so those could be canceled, and those were monies that were not spent from tourism. What took place for Latin Fest, as I understand it, was a trimmed down version of what was originally planned. In order to be able to reduce what the originally planned cost for that event was going to be. So there were attempts to be able to reduce what was taking place. But I think everybody needs to see it in that context. Regarding your question that I provided an answer on earlier, possibly Mr. Cannon would like to correct me or make some comment regarding that.
That's accurate. I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
So I have a
I
question.
didn't hear what you said, Greg. I'm sorry. What he said is accurate. I don't have anything to add, except
So, Mr. Cannon,
been doing this longer than me, so.
I do have a legal question for you then. Mr. Fehrenbach just highlighted appropriately that, you know, there is a contractual obligation that some official of the borough committed us to back in March. Although, just as an aside, I was told, and perhaps erroneously, that there was no contract signed at the time this issue arose. So I don't know if that's true or not, Mr. Fehrenbach, but
When I mentioned March, I was talking about the tourism events. I was not talking about the Bellic issue.
oh, I'm talking about Latin Fest.
Oh, Latin Fest, yeah, there was at least an agreement, if not a signed document, that existed in March, early April.
And there may have been an agreement, but I was at least informed that we did not have a signed contract. But my question for you, Mr. Cannon, we're kind of faced with a dilemma that Councilwoman Meredith DeMarco raised, Council President. That, you know, so what happens? We could get sued if we don't pay our bills. But the alternative that's putting us in this position is some official of representing the borough of Bradley Beach is making commitments to spend dollars from a trust, a legal entity.
Which has been the case for years, by the way.
So it's, as long as we've been doing it wrong for years.
No, I'm not saying it's being done wrong. I'm saying that has been the process for years.
I'm saying it's being done wrong, sir.
Okay.
And I'm saying, well, we have a duly formed commission authorized by borough ordinance that says they make that call. And they did not make that call, sir. And I'm trying to understand from Mr. Cannon, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if we don't pay this, and I can understand it's not the vendor's fault that we have these challenges. So if we do have to pay them, what other recourse do we have for the fact that this borough is disregarding this somewhere in this administration? We are disregarding our own ordinances, creating these conflicts that should not exist legally. What are we faced with? We're spending money from a trust. We're authorizing it that should not be done. And by the way, this is one example. There are many examples being money funneling through that trust that are not related to tourism. So I need to understand.
Like what?
Like the 130-year anniversary. That is not a tourism event. That was a resident event.
No money came out of tourism.
We sat at, Mr. Mayor, we sat up here in front of this audience, in front of a similar audience.
I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
So my only point is, I'm not trying to.
We made a contribution, I think that, I don't have it in front of me, but it was like a $5,000 contribution out of tourism for that. That's correct.
Yeah, and others donated money, revenue that came into the trust that shouldn't have, because it was not a tourism event. And we even talked here in public about the fact that we quote unquote broke even on that particular event. And the whole time I was sitting here thinking, it shouldn't have been flowing through the tourism trust. So there is I believe, a violation of law here. And I'm not trying to get us into details. I am trying to say, we gotta stop this, just as some residents have said tonight, just as the council's been saying for a pretty long time. We reduced the bid threshold to $4,000 for professional service firms because this administration has been paying 17,000, 20,000, 5,000, 8,000. Too much money when it wasn't necessary. So here we're faced with the black and white of we have to authorize payment. I don't want to do it. I feel like I'm going to be obligated to do it on behalf of the borough to avoid a lawsuit, to avoid penalties or whatever. But how do we make this stop? How do we make the unauthorized use of trust funds stop? And that's a question really for Mr. Cannon.
I mean, you have to speak to the CFO of the town. This is CFO's responsibility. I see what you're saying. Look, let me just say this. I don't know what the facts of this are. I haven't seen the doc. I know that you guys are all versed in this. So I don't know where the money's coming from, who got it. I'm certainly not keeping track over here. But you have an ordinance that says that the commission has the exclusive authority to disperse all the revenues, which is essentially the $75 fees. And so I would take it that Mr. Faraback will be speaking with the CFO. I don't know what other recourse you're looking for.
The commission has the authority, exclusive authority.
That's what the ordinance says, and like I said, I don't know what's spent where, but let's just
No,
assume
you don't, but
that someone authorized it other than the commission. Well, number one, I don't know who's on the commission or if it meets or if that's being.
Well, that is one issue that
There's
has.
clearly a disconnect here. I
Yeah.
mean, not even knowing all the facts, I can see that
Mhm.
something isn't working properly.
No,
I don't know if
we-
it's the
we said that we
commission,
need
the
to take another-
disbursements.
We said we need to take another look at this ordinance and this commission, and we are in the process of doing that.
It's the way.
Yeah, water, please. Really?
Greg, clearly I understand you're not close to the details.
Well, if you look at our tourism in the last 2 years, 2021, 22, tourism didn't hold a meeting in 22.
There was a pandemic.
That's my point. I was going there. We had a pandemic. Now, we had a pandemic, but we also ran meetings on Zoom, had ways of doing that. Tourism did not do that. I met with tourism in 2021. We had a brief, I want to say it was a 15-minute quote annual meeting. Was there an annual meeting for 2022? I don't think so. Was there an annual meeting for 2023? I don't think so. So there wasn't a lot of activity going on with tourism. We did use internal resources in the administration, Michelle Wiley, who actually picked that up as part of her responsibilities, some tourism responsibilities in the context of events. And I think we've been very successful with that. Do we need to clean up this ordinance, look at how it is laid out and how we execute against it? Absolutely. How many trusts do we have? 30 or something? Is that right?
Something in the order.
Something. So if we want to look at trusts and say, let's bring the CFO and look at each trust and say, how is it being dispersed? We should do that.
That's by law, we have to do that.
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
We have to.
No, I know, and they do that, and it's part of the audit. No, I'm saying in the context of what's the approval process, how we do that, because you're expressing a desire to get involved in the approval of those trust monies.
I'm expressing a desire that we manage those trust monies legally. And I fear that we are not doing that. I fear that there's a mindset, and I've probably been guilty of it myself, not with trust, but with the beach utility as an example. But there's a mindset that people go through and they say, oh, that's getting paid out of the beach utility, then it's okay. Because why? If it's paid out of the current fund, your taxes might go up. If we can put things in the beach utility or the sewer utility, we help manage your taxes. So in general, if it's appropriate, that's a good thing to do. We want to allocate dollars to the beach utility, to the sewer utility, if it's appropriate. But it bothers me when the reaction of the administration is often, oh, don't worry about that, councilman. That's getting paid out of the beach utility.
No, nobody's ever said that.
Okay.
Nor, we treat every dollar equally, whether it's beach utility or trusts or the current fund or the sewer fund. We have a responsibility to do that and we do that. So
As recently as the last few meetings, we've said, oh, that's getting that, can that get paid out of the beach utility? Can that get paid out of sewer? And a lot of times the answer is, yes, don't worry about it, without regard to, does it fit? The
I
answer is
don't
yes.
recall any of that. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's fine. My point being here, trusts are sacred animals. That's why you set them up to begin with. You do not commingle dollars. And we collectively, this borough of Bradley Beach would be liable for misuse of trust funds. And I fear that our auditor, I'm planning to very specifically ask our auditor to review this. Mr. Fehrenbach can tell you, I have had exchanges with Mr. Fehrenbach to say, help me reconcile what I'm seeing in our annual statements for the trust, tourism trust, to what I'm seeing in Edmonds. And I have not yet been able to accomplish that reconciliation. I'm sure someone can, but based on the correspondence that we've exchanged, we were still off by $9,000 or $10,000 on a base of 60 or 70. So it was not an insignificant difference.
So the last communication to you by Mr. Clinton had the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023, I think the beginning of 2022, all in sync between Edmonds and the AFS, which will end up being the audit.
I need to revisit that because I recall seeing that same correspondence and I don't recall that the balance is reconciled. So I may be wrong, but even that took me multiple exchanges of emails to get to that response. And my recollection is that he had still not answered my question. So my point being, we're sitting here saying, the mayor's saying, we got to look at the ordinance, we got to revisit it. All the while, though, the mayor is making decisions on how to spend money out of that trust, or maybe not the mayor. No, maybe it's Michelle Wiley, maybe it's the prior business administrator, maybe it's you, Mr. Fairbank. I don't know. But no one should be making those decisions except the commission. And if the commission was a meeting, that somebody in the administration should have said, hello, commission, you've got to be meeting. This is a town authorized commission.
Yes, and when I was liaison in 2021, I asked for an annual meeting and got it. In 2022, our liaison for the tourism group was Councilman Bennell. In 2023, that liaison is Councilwoman. In 2023, it's Councilwoman Denoble.
And I applaud Ms. DeNoble because she's at least been trying to get this squared away and straightened out. And my sense of my conversations with her is she just keeps running into brick walls. So it's very frustrating as we try to serve the public when we cannot get answers. The answers sound like we have to revisit the ordinance. Meanwhile, we're flagrantly ignoring the ordinance with every authorization made.
Okay, do we want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
No,
I would like to make a motion to approve the bill list with the exception of the item on page 11 to Maren Bellick for the public relations consultant, and also with the exception of the item on page 19. I can't read the name of the vendor, but what we've been talking about, the $6,900 for the lab for that.
Okay,
That is
that's your motion?
Yes, it is.
Is somebody to second that motion?
You guys
John, you just,
made a motion.
or just taking out the one item, the 17,000.
Well, I said take out 2 items,
Oh, you did. I didn't hear the second. Thank you.
and so I don't know where you are.
Second,
Ms. Camardo?
Yes.
Ms. DeNoble?
yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes,
Mayor Fox?
No. Okay, let's move to the next set of and I guess I should qualify my note here. I think there is a rationale. We're going to explain that on Ms. Bellick. She did the work for us in 2022 and did it very effectively. And we have an obligation to pay our vendors, whether we agree or disagree on what that looks like in the context of local or somebody outside or whatever. So that's my vote of no. Okay, individual resolutions. First one is 2023 to 40, excuse me, authorization to award Park Place Avenue Phase 1 Improvement Project for Fernandez Construction in the amount of $559,187,000.
Question, Mr. Mayor, is
Yep.
this the same construction firm that's done a lot of the other work in south end of town?
I don't think Fernandez did,
But they did the under drain.
they did the under drain work, but they did not do the sewer work. That was MSP.
And I have a question, this winning bidder at 559, am I right that this, I don't wanna say the price came down, but this is closer to the estimated price? I see your engineers here, if I can get an answer from them. Was this the seasonal thing, like by doing it this time of the year, we were doing a little bit better?
Yeah, so we redid this project. There were a couple of changes made to the plan. Reduction of some of the concrete items, sidewalk and curb, to save existing concrete that's in good shape. It doesn't need to be replaced. And I think the timing of the bid was better. We got more participation in the bid. We did receive 6 bids as compared to 2 from the previous bid.
Okay, thanks, Ben, appreciate that. No more questions.
Make a motion to approve 2023-240.
Second,
Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes,
Mr. Weber?
Yes,
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2023-241, establishing municipal solid waste collection on recognized holidays. Make a motion.
I'd like to make comments there.
Okay.
I feel this is very minimal savings for us. I mean, we want to save money, but I'd rather save like $100,000 with something else. And I feel this is not only negatively affecting the businesses by not picking up on those Mondays or holidays, it also negatively affects the north end. So I don't see this being, as far as what we're saving, it's just not worth it. And I think they do a great job, and a lot of times we need that pickup on those Mondays or with the holidays, especially during the summer.
yeah, I had a clarifying question, I guess. I think it was Mrs. Duffy who raised the question, but there was some language she used, I believe, that the pickup, if we pass on this one day, it will be picked up the next scheduled date. And just to be clear, I interpreted that to be you miss a pickup. It resumes whenever, it's not like you come the next day to pick it up. If you're scheduled a week later, you come a week later. Is that a fair interpretation?
First of all, in answer to one comment that Councilwoman DeNoble made,
Yes.
there is no holdup of any collections during the summer.
Okay,
The closest one to the summer is either Columbus Day or Good Friday. So there is no impact there. Secondly, in terms of the concern regarding businesses, the plan is that collections would take place the following day, assuming that the pickup was supposed to be on a Thursday, and if it would occur on a Friday, they would then pick up on the Friday. If the pickup were supposed to be on a Monday and we're not providing the service, such as October 9th, the collection would be on October 10th.
So that's for Main Street.
For Main Street.
For Main Street
For
only.
businesses, to be able to deal with the volume that exists there.
Right.
In terms of residences, let's say such as me, I get picked up on Tuesdays. My next pickup would be the following Friday. That week, I would have once a week collection instead of twice a week collection. I can tell you that having gone over this in a number of municipalities and watching a number of different municipalities, many municipalities operate on one collection day a week. not to prove. I'm not saying that we ought to make that change. I am simply saying that for the 6 periods in which this would take place, it would be once a week collection instead of twice a week collection.
And what's the savings? Approximately.
The savings averages out at about $1,000 a day because we're paying double overtime.
So is it $6,000?
Yes, and that's what it says in the
Less than a
resolution.
Latin Fest. I don't think, it does not, doesn't seem to be working.
Well, I think we've been asked and we have been looking throughout all the budgets and we've asked departments to come forward. I think this was a practical proposal by Public Works. We worked it back and forth. We asked a question about Main Street and we said we could do that on straight time the following day. If you come up with $6,000 savings, you got $60,000. You're not gonna save, there's no fell swoop $100,000 savings. We're gonna chip away at this and we're gonna continue to try to manage as effectively as we can. I think it's a good recommendation. These guys worked on it. I know Greg did, and Public Works, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Let me put this in context again. There were 3 categories of cuts. Potential cuts, cost containment actions. One category could be done by the department on their own without having to have approval of the mayor, without having to have approval of the governing body.
Correct.
Category 2 were reductions that would require the approval of the mayor. The third were ones that would affect current policies, or would result in reductions in service. Those were left for governing body decisions. The request of the governing body was in June, July, please come up with suggestions as to how to reduce the cost of this budget.
Right.
We have tried to come up with those. This is one that, because of the fact it's going to have an impact on services, it is one that the governing body has to decide.
Right.
If the governing body decides they don't want to proceed, it's not as if they're thumbing their nose in the face of administration. There was a request by the governing body. The suggestion was made. I ran it by the mayor and Councilman Gubitosi initially to determine whether it should be brought to the rest of the council, and it was agreed to be brought to the rest of the council. It's whatever the desire of the council is regarding this matter.
And Mr. Fehrenbach, on that note, you're absolutely correct, and I generally speaking, I agree with the mayor. I applaud any effort, however small, to save dollars. The 3,000 here and the 6,000 there actually can add up to 60 and 100,000. In fact, we've seen that in reverse, authorizing a lot of $6,000 and $10,000 payments last year that added up to a lot of money. So we absolutely need to manage these dollars. However, when we spoke, number one, the target was larger. It was 11,000.
Correct.
And we were targeting 9 holidays. We're down to 6. So that tells me that whatever preliminary discussion may have taken place with you and the mayor and perhaps members of our DPW, it wasn't fully appreciated how all the holidays worked, because we lost 3 more of the 9 we were going to target for 11,000. We're now down to 6 for 6,000. And I have to agree with Ms. DeNoble, me personally, just, sharing my comments for the public to hear. Well, first of all, the whole goal of having these types of discussions would have been and has been so that the public could have input. We should be typically having a workshop on this type of a topic. The reason we're not, is, as you explained to me, is if we want to move forward, we'd want to move forward for the first holiday right around the corner in early October. So I appreciate the urgency of this. But as a general rule, the public should have much more of an opportunity to weigh in than you did tonight as just opening comments. But so. One, future discussions about changing recycling and garbage disposal should, solid waste should be done via workshops so the public has input. Two, I was willing to consider a reduction, especially when I thought it was, better thought through with DPW. At this point, I agree with Ms. DeNovo. I'm gonna reverse myself and say, while I initially thought it made sense, I don't think $6,000 makes sense if it's going to reduce services as we've described. So that's just my take on it.
Mr. Mayor, if I can clarify something, Mr. Gupitosi, the analysis done by the Department of Public Works was correct. I was in error believing that there had been collections previously, maybe not just this last year, but at some point in the past, on, I believe it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Those are the three that have apparently not been collected for a number of years. I believe there had been collections. The calculation of 11,000 was done by the Department of Public Works and was accurate. It included the cost of dumping. When I changed the ordinance, the resolution to read 6,000, I could have left it at the 11,000, but I didn't think that that was accurate. Because the dumping costs are likely to be a fixed cost that won't necessarily happen on the holiday, but will happen on the day before or the day after or the following week. And so it was my error, not Public Works error, for including the dumping fees as opposed to just including the overtime costs.
And to be clear, I never actually thought it was the Public Works error. I thought there was just some misunderstanding between you and the mayor and how to calculate everything. So we just have gotten this down to a point where I don't want to be the person voting to take away services, especially Main Street services, especially my understanding is
Recognize though, we're not taking away the Main Street service. We're gonna collect the next day.
following day. Yeah, so
Correct. So we're not taking away that
so it's
service.
only one day that all the waste would have to sit out there.
Right. One day on Main Street.
Lovely. So along with Mr. Mayor, as I was about to say, what seems to be a fairly direct hit to North End residents, the Monday piece of this, which the majority of these holidays, I believe, fall on a Monday. I understand that the Monday is a day for the North End pickup. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, Monday, Thursday is the north side, Tuesday, Friday is the south side.
And I personally live closer to the south end and on Fourth Avenue, and I don't want to face my North End neighbors taking away their garbage pickup. So again, that's just my position. I'll let the rest of my council colleagues vote as they feel appropriate.
So do we want to table this or, I mean, 'cause I'm starting to think,
Why would we table it?
I don't plan to.
because maybe it's not tenable pass.
And why would you suggest we?
I'm just asking the question, somebody whoever's offering it to table it, I don't know if there's any other way to work it, if not, because I'm starting to think that for 6,000, I'm like shocked it's that low, like the savings. I love that we went through the exercise and let's figure out where we can save money, I'm shocked it's that low. So I'm inclined to not vote for this as well, so rather than offer something up that gets voted down, I'm just asking if we should table it, that's all.
Mr. Mayor, I see Pat Allen is here, not to put you on the spot.
But I think Greg was gonna say
Oh, I'm
something.
sorry, go ahead, Greg. I can't see him through this owl. Sorry.
What I tried saying earlier was, this is a choice of the governing body.
Right.
It is a matter of dollars versus services. If it is the general feeling of the governing body, which is what it sounds like to me, that there is not an interest in using this method to save these monies, then I think tabling the resolution is an appropriate thing to do. It's that simple.
Can we just vote no?
You can also vote no too. Each one of them have the same impact.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Well, I'll make a motion to to vote no for this resolution 241 to establish solid waste collection on borough recognized holidays in a manner that would otherwise save approximately $6,000 of overtime.
So are you voting?
I didn't understand what you said.
I tried to make a motion to vote no.
Yeah, but
No, you
Just
need to
vote
make a
and then
motion,
vote
no,
no.
you gotta make a motion on the, you either have to make a motion on the resolution or make a motion to table the resolution.
Make a motion on the resolution.
Advisement.
So you're making a motion on the resolution.
Was trying to.
yeah,
apparently
and then I will second it,
To vote on the resolution.
and we'll just vote it down.
And then the
Okay.
resolution fails
I was trying to be clear.
versus being tabled.
Okay. I'll make a motion to vote on the resolution.
And I seconded it.
Mrs. Marco?
No.
Mr. Noble?
Wait, so we're voting on the resolution, we're gonna vote again after this, correct?
No, we're just voting on the resolution.
You're making a motion to vote on the actual resolution, so if all of you vote no, the resolution fails.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
Erica. No,
Okay, where was I? Mr. Gubatose?
No.
Mr. Weber?
Yeah, I mean, no.
Thanks, Hans.
I used to say that.
Mayor.
Yes. And again, I think, you know, going through this resolution and the exercise, we do rely on our public works and BA to have this analysis. This is something that if we did it and it caused problems in the future, we could reverse it. I think I compliment both groups for trying to come up with something. $6,000, again, you come up with $6,000 savings. And all of a sudden you got $60,000. So I don't agree with that, but certainly that's the vote of the governing body. So I appreciate the discussion. Okay, 2023-242 resolution supported developing strategic and comprehensive parking and traffic analysis that achieves enhanced parking efficiency and effectiveness in the borough with balancing the needs of businesses and residents.
Mr. Mayor, I asked to have this put on the agenda, and there was some confusion just between myself and Mr. Cannon as we exchanged thoughts as to how this should be drafted. And basically, I don't believe we're ready at this point to vote on this tonight. So
So you'd like to table it?
I'd like to make a motion.
Make a motion to table it. I would, okay.
So is there a second?
Is there a second?
second,
Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
yes,
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes,
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2023-223 authorizing TNM Associates to provide professional environmental engineering services, bidding assistance, and construction administration services for the demolition of structures located upon 319 Lorraine. Again, I just want to make a few comments on this, that Business Administrator Fehrenbach, Councilman Gubatose, and I met with 3 companies. Asked them to clarify the interface with the, I'll call it artifact management process and demolition via addendum. All 3 companies submitted their proposals. We've also had some further discussions with Rose O'Connor Meyer, who is the person who came to the last meeting. I shared that conversation in a kind of a table with the council, I think a week or so ago. I guess it was a week after we met, just to clarify some things with her. There's been a little bit of discussion back and forth, just to be absolutely sure that the right and the left hand are operating. The only other update I have to this, I can't really go into a ton of detail, but I did meet with Jim Foley, who is the chair of the Seven Presidents Foundation, and he actually toured the church with me in the rain on Saturday. So I can tell you that there's a couple of drip leaks, but that's about it. The remediation's holding pretty well, given that storm on Saturday. I can just tell you it was a very productive discussion, and I think we may see some good things coming from that. Ms. O'Connor Meyer is familiar with that foundation, and certainly that'll be hopefully a productive process going forward. So those are the only comments I have. So I'll make a
I
motion.
have a comment.
Yes.
I'm very, I don't even know where to start with this. I drafted 1.5 page prepared statement, and I'm like, I can't torture these people and keep reading these statements. In fact, I've got statements to read later, but I'm gonna skip this particular prepared statement. But I'm going to wing it, and hopefully I'll be shorter than my prepared statement. The impromptu version of this for me is, I have raised the question about artifacts for months, for 3 months. Went through a process, we got bids, the individuals, the engineering firms didn't really address the artifacts other than to say, yes, we'll work with you, it's in there. Didn't put much in writing, all this transpired at a council meeting. I raised these concerns enough that, to the mayor's credit, although he did it independently without involving me, he did reach out and find a stained glass expert, which was at least a step in the right direction. But I then asked to be able to speak to the 3 engineering firms, and I pushed to not have any one engineering firm present to the council until we all understood that we had apples and apples proposals. I participated in 3 conversations with each of the engineering firms, and actually got very different feedback. And it was good because it confirmed, it was good in my opinion, because it confirmed some of my concerns that we weren't necessarily talking apples and apples. I then proceeded to put a list of 5 or 6 or so things that we had all, the conversations, me and the engineers had all agreed, hey, we needed clarity. Just confirm that you're going to do these 6 things, confirm you're going to do 3 and you're going to charge extra for the other 2, whatever. Get us all apples and apples. I shared that with Mr. Fehrenbach. He shared that with Ms. Humphrey. Ms. Humphrey set basically my list to the firms. The firm that the mayor has been trying to hire for a few months, T&M, basically responded, yeah, you know, we'll coordinate. I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but basically, we're not covering anything more than basically you giving us the list of your artifacts. And that, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't work for me. And I've been saying this for quite some time, because in my mind, they need to be coordinating. That engineering firm that is coordinating the demolition needs to understand who's coming in and when they're coming in and so forth to do the removal of the artifact. I shared with Mr. Fehrenbach roughly a week ago, 5 days ago maybe, that I was not satisfied with the T&M answer. Mr. Fehrenbach told me he would follow up at 1:10 today. Now, almost a week had gone by, 1:10 today, and I didn't see this email until a couple hours before the meeting. There was a response forwarded to me from T&M. It raised new questions for me. So I've already been accused publicly by the mayor that I am stalling this. And I imagine he's going to say it again. I think he makes some reference to it in every single newsletter, how unfortunate it is that I am stalling this process. I will tell you.
One newsletter, sorry.
And one newsletter you named me, and others you just said, council people are stalling. Regardless, it's just unfathomable sometimes the dialogue we have. Regardless, it's simple. I'm being asked to spend, give or take, $40,000-$50,000 of your money. I don't even know if it really is the low bidder, because I don't yet know that we have apples and apples comparison. I still have questions to ask, questions I've been asking for months. Whether this appears in another newsletter or not, I really at this point don't care. I do not plan to vote for this tonight, because once again, there are 3 proposals. I've talked to the engineers. They've all told me they had different scopes. And now we've got back some information that's made it clearer, but not clear. So I just want people to know, think what you will. I'm stalling, I'm not stalling. It doesn't matter. I'm a fiduciary of your money. I'm going to spend it wisely. I'm going to make sure that whoever we hire is is truly the low bidder and the most
Well,
appropriate.
number one, it's not a bid, it's an RFP.
Okay,
And you don't have to, you do not have to go with the lowest bidder with an RFP. You go with who you think is the appropriate person to go in. I think the bids or the RFPs, a couple of them came in at around $48,000 and one came in higher than that. Do you have any comments before I comment? Mr. Fehrenbach?
I will just provide my impression. The three of us were on those three interviews with the engineers. The primary concern, at least it seemed to me, and on this one, I don't claim to know very much about the salvage value or the manner of salvaging from a site for demolition. But when we went through with those three engineers, the one that came across to me to be the most knowledgeable about what is involved was T&M, because of the manner in which they responded to your questions and the mayor's questions. I don't recall that I had any. And their experience in demolishing churches. The key issue seemed to be, how were the artifacts going to be identified? None of the engineering firms wanted the responsibility to identify artifacts. They wanted somebody from the outside who would be able to identify something of value, to be able to go through the identification process, provide them the information that would be included in the bid spec. The thing that came through to me in looking at the Rose O'Connor Meyer proposals and T&M and the material that I sent to you today, because I thought you had gotten it on Monday, but when I looked at it today, I realized you were not copied. It seemed to me, and I think it would seem at least to anybody with my level of lack of knowledge of this, that Meyer was basically saying that she would identify all of the items, she would identify potential endpoints for it, she would search out best prices, and she would then make sure that all of that was taking place prior to the actual demolition taking place, except for whatever may require the demolition contractor to remove it, and that would then have to be set forth in the bid specs. None of the engineering firms indicated during any of our discussions that they would do anything other than write a set of bid specs and include information in those specifications that satisfy the municipality and the municipality's artifact consultant, whatever the title might be. It wasn't clear to me then what more one would need from this process, if indeed the objective is to be able to take care of these properties in a way so that we don't have any further carrying costs.
Right. So first question, I guess, for you, Councilman, were you of the same mind after those reviews that we thought we had I'll call it a preferred engineer? I thought I heard you say that, because we kind of summarized where we were at the end of the meetings, did we not?
apparently not, because my preferred engineer, actually based on only the conversations, was not your preferred engineer. But
I
I'd rather not
I
get into
heard
that.
something very different then, I'm sorry. I just heard something different. I thought we kind of lined around that. And let me tell you why that's important.
Please.
I met subsequent to that with Rose O'Connor, and I'm gonna cover some of this because I think it's important. So we discussed, this was a meeting I had with her on 21 September, which I think was right after we met with the three engineers. Discussion with Rose O'Connor is to put a historically responsible process in place to ensure the 44 items that she's already inventoried ends up in the best places possible. The follow-up was she created a kind of a framework to say there's 3 distribution channels for these artifacts: professional acquisition, Monmouth County related historical, and Bradley Beach interest. So point 1. Point 2, discuss this front end process, ensuring that all artifacts are out of the site prior to demolition commencing. The note was that Rose would be aggressive in that placement, getting communication discussion completed with Mr. Foley, which is the 7th president. That along with setting up meetings with Historical Society on somewhat our critical path. Third thing, meet with engineering company. The objective would be to manage any lagging items with a view towards auction house taking items. So we went through a what if. What if of these 44 items, there's 5 left? What do we do? And because my point to her was there cannot be any of these historical items in the church for a protracted period of time. And that the option is the auction house option. Her other point is there should be no double handling. The last was Jim Foley, 7 presidents, toured him through the site. So this was sent to the whole governing body. Basis the meeting that we had, I did forward this to TNM because my view was that that was the preferred vendor. And I'll read what they said. After reviewing your email and discussing this, TNM can accommodate limited coordination with Rose O'Connor as it pertains to salvage work that is in interest to the borough. More specifically, your notes below indicate that Rose's artifact salvage work is to be completed prior to any scheduled site demolition. So no artifacts remain on site when the demolition commences, which is the objective. Your notes also indicate that Rose is to meet with the engineering company so we understand what is taking place on site demolition. That said, TM's proposed scope of services can accommodate a meeting with Rose to discuss her work and avoid having any double handling of artifacts as part of the demolition contract. To reconfirm, it is specifically understood that the borough and Rose O'Connor will be responsible for the ID removal, transport, and storage donation of site artifacts, which Rose has committed to. Further, it's understood that all site artifacts will be removed prior to any scheduled demolition, which certainly makes sense, to eliminate inclusion, which would eliminate the inclusion of artifact removal from being included in the demo project. Last, it's specified, is specifically understood that the reference to front end process refers to Rose's salvage work, because that apparently that's an engineering term that he didn't want to have confused. The only addendum to this conversation was that when the demo company comes in, if we do not have a home for the bell in the tower, that we would put in the bid spec that they would be responsible for removing that bell under our under their supervision. Everything else will be removed prior to any demolition. Her process, she's identified as an 8 to 12 week process tops. She's informally already began working on this, although we don't have a contract. She just said, I've just put out some feelers. And I think she's going to meet with Mr. Foley, who's the chair of the 7 presidents, and also he's on the board of the Monmouth County Historical Association and the Ocean County Association, Historical Association. So what I'm trying to kind of understand is that I think we've tried to do everything that you've asked us to do. We met with the engineers. I thought we walked away with a reasonable alignment on those engineers. Apparently we didn't, but I think I was under that impression, Greg. I think I even summarized it.
There was one engineering firm that raised issues that the other 2 did not. Very specific issues that opened my eyes to challenges that I hadn't anticipated. And I shared that with you.
But, and as we said, and I can recall this conversation, is anytime you send out an RFP, are you gonna get identical interpretations and readbacks? You're not. And
One
we
firm challenged us,
and we summarized what we thought on each one of the firms. And I thought we had an
No,
alignment.
you've got to focus, Mr. Mayor.
No, it's not a focus. I'm just saying that's what we did. I mean.
You hear
Mr.
what you
Fer-
want to hear.
Well, no, that's not the case. I sat there and listened.
Well, I'm saying right now to you publicly,
Right.
that I'm not gonna get into naming firms. I feel badly that you're already pushing me to a point of having to say my preferred firm was not your preferred firm, and it
I-
really upsets me that we have these conversations in public. I'm not going to speak poorly about any of the firms, only to say one of them differentiated themselves clearly to me in terms of their creativity and the questions they asked of us. I shared that with you, but apparently you were thinking this other firm is the best firm, they're the best qualified.
I don't know. I could really care, I really could care less who got the RFP. The reason we had this meeting was to clarify the back end of an addendum and put an addendum in place.
You read, Mr. Mayor, from TNM's proposal. I have a sentence here that really caught my attention. I shared it a week ago with, roughly 5 days ago, with Mr. Fahrenbach. This is from TNM. TNM's final signed proposal dated July 25th, underscored, italicized, bolded, does not include, actually, it cuts off, does not include effort, something that I've actually stupid printout. Basically, I said to them in our conversations, I need you to confirm, it was on my checklist, 6 things. I need you to confirm these 6 things, one of which was that it was this particular coordination between the artifacts guru and the demolition group guru was included in your scope. And this firm, the firm that the mayor wants us to vote on tonight, specifically responded to my question. I said, is it in there? The idea being, you're supposed to confirm, yes, it is, or no, but for an extra 5,000, it is now. Instead, they confirmed, no, it is not. My question is still, so how much more will you charge us if you do what I keep asking for months for you to do? Let's put it this way, for weeks, I've been asking. So I haven't had the chance. I saw this about 3:30 today. Mr. Fahrenbach only forwarded it to me at 1:10. And I'm asked to come here and vote, and I have questions. So I have questions that I have no time to get answered. We should not be debating the merits of these proposals in public. I'm forced to do it because my integrity continues to be challenged because I am stalling a process. This is what people call in my world, due diligence. Before I spend money, I make sure I have an apples and apples comparison. I don't have any one of the firms. I'm not trying to pick on any one. If any one of them says, oh, you want that? Well, okay, thank you for telling us. It's not in my quote. I'm gonna say, well, put it in your proposal. We don't have that yet. I don't believe we have that. If we have it, I haven't been able to ask the question because I just found out a few hours ago that they said it's not in their proposal.
But I just read that they are included. And they put it in writing to us.
You said the artifacts are included, not the coordination between.
No, it says that they're gonna meet and have that coordination.
Do you have the proposal? Do you have this language that got cut off on my version?
I don't have.
Does not include the coordination with the contractor. It was, well, Mr. Fahrenbach sent it to me. I don't know if he copied everybody. Mr. Fahrenbach, do you have this?
On what I sent to you.
Forwarded from Ms.
at
Humphrey?
1:10 today.
Yes,
Uh,
it is the,
was dealing with
Second.
artifact management, 319 Lorraine.
yes,
And it starts out after reviewing on the first paragraph. I thought the first paragraph answered that question that you
I
had.
don't see after reviewing, but you're forwarding it from TNM and you're forwarding Ms. Humphrey's forwarding of TNM and TNM says, with regard to this particular matter, that's how it begins.
Well,
It was the second bullet. And this is what I spoke to you about last week. The second bullet. T&M's
but-
final sign proposal does not include,
What I believe I sent you today was a memorandum, I'm sorry, it was an email from Eric Nathanson of T&M dated Monday, September 25th at 9:48 that I thought you were copied on, and when I looked at it, you weren't copied on it, which is why I sent it out today. It begins, after reviewing your email, and as we discussed on Saturday morning, 9:23, T&M can accommodate limited coordination with Rose O'Connor as it pertains to the salvage work that is of interest to the borough. More specifically, your notes below indicate that Rose's artifact salvage work is to be completed prior to any scheduled site demolition, so no artifacts remain on site when the demolition contract commences. Your notes also indicate that Rose is to meet with the engineering company, and I understand that meeting is to take place prior to site demolition. That said, T&M's proposed scope of services can accommodate a meeting with Rose to discuss her work to avoid having to double handle artifacts as part of the demolition contract.
so I have questions.
You,
And I'm not gonna ask you to answer.
no, I'm just saying, did you receive that?
That sounds familiar, so yes.
Okay, thank you.
But again, I received it late in the day as I was preparing for the meeting, assuming I was getting no answer. I have questions. I'm not prepared to vote for this again without having the opportunity to ask those questions. That's simple.
What, could you articulate what those questions are? Just, I mean, not comprehensively, but
His
just.
scope is including one meeting, one sit down, and if I recall, assuming he will get a list of the artifacts. And I anticipate there is more interaction necessary, and if not, they'll need to explain that to me. And I believe there is more needed, and in that case, he's not providing the scope that I
Oh.
continue to request.
Well, so I guess what the artifact management person is basically saying is that her objective is to have everything dispersed well before any demolition. She's saying 8 weeks minimum, 12 weeks maximum.
Right,
So-
where the site will have huge gaping holes in the walls in a residential neighborhood for 8
Well,
weeks max.
No, because right now, those walls have covers on those what the remediation work. So
Okay.
clearly we would, that would be something that would be timed out.
You know what'd be really easy, Mr. Mayor, if you would just invite me into these conversations when you're having them, because
Which conversation would you like? me to
whichever
invite
one
you to?
you're,
So
describing
we
right
had 3 meetings with the engineers, with you, with myself, with Mr. Fehrenbach. I sent you all a summarization of any conversation I had with Rose O'Connor on the 21st of September, the day after I met with her. So,
but I still have questions for some reason.
well, so why, I guess, my question is, if on September 21st you had questions, because this went out to everybody, why didn't I get any response?
I went to Mr. Fehrenbach.
No.
Yeah,
No. I'm sending a memo to all of you on September 21st saying, here's the conversation, or here's the process that Rose O'Connor would embark on.
Yeah, not the engineer, Rosa Conn.
Right. And I said, if you have any questions or input, please advise. I heard nothing from anybody. My assumption then is that, okay, this process looks legitimate and looks okay. I conveyed that then to that engineering firm, and they agreed that, yeah, this works.
So you, first of all, it's your assumption. Let us not talk about assuming. Number two, you conveyed it to one engineering firm when I've been asking repeatedly for an apples and apples comparison. 3, Mr. Fehrenbach, to your credit, sir, reached out to me and said, was I a week ago, 5 days ago, whatever it was. And you said, are you okay with this agenda item? And I said, actually, I have a question. And then through an oversight or whatever, we lost a few days in forwarding the information to me. As I read the information at 3 or 3:20 today, I had questions.
Okay, so
They are not answered.
But what are those questions?
stop.
Well, I'm just trying to
I
understand.
refuse. We're done. I'm ready to vote. I'm not, I keep saying, I'm not gonna talk about it.
Order, please.
This is a proposal process. 3 engineering firms have bid. I want to make sure they're all bidding the same. You're focusing only on one of the.
No,
3.
no, I'm not. And please, you made that inference before. And
You said it, sir.
I've said this, well, I said
You
it.
said you went to that one firm.
I said it based on the fact that we walked out of a meeting and we all, I thought, agreed that this was the preferred vendor. Did you have that impression, Mr. Frank?
I had the same impression.
So 2 of us have that impression. I'm sorry, but I don't, if we didn't have that impression, we would have stopped dead in our tracks and said, what do we need to do? But that's the impression.
So how did you both have that impression? And you weren't.
Well, one reason is because at the end of the third review, I summarized for both of you and said, here's what I see. And I listed those things. And again, I'm not gonna go
And I
through those.
sent a list saying there's
But-
6 things I need more confirmation.
Right, and we then forwarded those to those 3 engineering firms.
Yes. And I said to your face, one of the firms gave us much better guidance than the others. And you said, well, the firm that we're talking about has much more experience. How did I say, I agree with you? I did not say that.
That's the impression I got. I'm sorry. That's the impression Mr. Fehrenbeck got. Sorry. That's just the impression we got and
Well,
unfortunate.
My bottom line is,
So,
I was more impressed by one other firm. However, I wanted all of them to have apples and apples. I still don't have that. I personally am not prepared to vote yes.
so, so we wanna, I guess I'll make a motion to table. Well, or do you wanna make the motion to table?
No, I'm fine voting. Maybe, well, John can't vote, so maybe you have 3 votes. I'm voting no. So if somebody wants to make a
I'll
motion,
make a motion to table resolution 2023-223.
One table, you want?
second. Yeah, I'm fine.
Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yep.
Mr. Weber?
No.
Yeah.
He's abstaining.
Thank you.
Like on a child, that like I don't know to abstain.
The,
Mayor Cox.
so, I'm sorry.
We're making a motion to table.
Table. And we have 3 yeses. I'm gonna vote no. And the reason I'm gonna vote no is that, in an RFP process, you're never gonna get 100%, everything like all the stars line up. And I think we had, I think we have a valid, proposal. We'll come back and revisit it and hopefully we'll move for another day.
Thank you.
Okay, next agenda item. Second, sorry. Is, okay, I'm sorry, we have no announcements, so it'll be mayor and council reports. Before we do the mayor and council reports, I would ask, Mr. Fehrenbach, if you have any comments or questions, this is your shot, Greg.
Well, I want to make the public aware of what the council is aware. That the resolution adopted at the meeting last 2 weeks ago. Resolution 237 to appoint Nancy Britton as the chief financial officer will not be taking effect because Ms. Britton informed me that due to certain personal health issues that I will not get any more specific about, that she did not believe that it was either good for her or fair to the borough of Bradley Beach to accept the position, and so has declined the appointment. A new advertisement for the position appeared today in on the New Jersey League website. And we will be going through that process once again. I regret having to inform everybody of that because I believe, the governing body concurred in my view that Ms. Britton would have been a very positive addition to the staff and the attempts we're making to make improvements here. But that's the way it goes. Being the last meeting, I would like to thank the mayor and the other members of the governing body for giving me the opportunity to learn a great deal more about this community I've chosen to live in, and giving me an opportunity to be able to hopefully make some improvements in the operations. And I hope that those efforts continue into the future. And thank you all very much.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks again. Okay, we'll go through comments. First, I'd start with, we have semi-officially wrapped up summer, although Hurricane Ophelia has wrapped us up a little bit. We still have a lot of activity going. We had a lot of activity going on at the beach around beachgoers for the first part of September, and this last week, not too many people were at the beach except to take pictures of storms. We did make a decision to cover our beaches in the month of September with the skeleton crew, and I think that's worked out very well. The first day that the crew was on, they saved 3 people. Anybody who's read what's going on in the other towns, they did not choose to do that. We're going to work towards what we're calling kind of a tri-borough approach, maybe with Ocean Grove and Avon next year, so we might be able to spread this out a little bit. The monitors did a great job, the lifeguards, and hopefully they're done at the end of this week. Unfortunately, not fortunately or unfortunately, the weather next week looks pretty good, like 80-degree weather. So we're gonna have beachgoers next week, but the lifeguard group that we have is through the end of September. We will probably have his Officer Wilson kind of up in his catbird seat in the lifeguard area, just making sure things are okay if people start going down to the water. Beach lockers need to be emptied by Sunday. They actually should have been emptied by last Sunday, but we clearly, because of the level of the storm, put that in abeyance. So we extended it to this week. We've had some discussions with DPW and OEM. OEM more around the storm process, DPW around the locker process. We're going to recommend that we take the ordinance that we said lockers through the end of September and back that up 2 weeks to mid-September. There's just too much volatility in September with storms. We think that's a fair compromise, and we'll probably bring that forward. But for those who haven't been down at the beach, the lockers are kind of they're not laying flat anymore. They're kind of disheveled, and that's because the sand's gotten under them, which is going to cause maintenance issues relative to those. I'm looking at Mr. Allen. Would you agree with that, Mr. Allen? Yeah, could be. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that more coming up here. Some other activities. At the grammar school, the elementary school, class of 24 started their Washington trip fundraising with a car wash last week, and we hope that residents are going to continue to focus and contribute to that group on an ongoing basis as they have in the past. We did have a blood drive last Monday at the firehouse. We ended up registering 40 donors and got 30 units of blood. This translates into 43 lives impacted, thanks to our volunteers and more importantly, our donors. We did have local summer too. It was a rain date last Sunday. It was a fun event, open to all Bradley Beach residents. People enjoyed it. There was some raffles, some food, and some other festivities, but the weather was, just kind of on the brink. Just mention a few things on infrastructure projects. We've had some good success with those in the last 2 years. We are embarking on this Lake Terrace grant that we got week 2 of October. That work will commence, and that should be about a month ish process. Ben? Yeah. We did get some indications from the Bradley Cinema that they are going to start construction in October with a view towards opening next spring. They told us a bunch of the improvements that they're laying out, and they've got a general contractor, so they're moving on that. That's really good news. We know that the cinema has been closed since, I think, October of 2020. So that'll be that's certainly positive. Library. We have a couple things. I mentioned these things, but I'll mention them again. If you sign up for a library card or check out library materials between September 5th and October 11th, you'll be entered into a drawing for a gift card. The Let's Speak Italian is still going on. Actually, yeah, through November 8th. Starts tonight. So maybe there might be some people speaking Italian over at the library tonight. Manhattan Short Film Festival, September 28th to October 8th. It's on the website. Please register if you have an interest. We did resume senior meetings today. We had a kind of a kickoff at UVA. I was able to get there for the very end. Unfortunately, I didn't make the lunch, but it seemed like a lot of happy seniors. And hopefully we'll be able to get them situated coming up shortly here. I do want to mention 2 other things. One, October 9th, the railroad crossing is going to get start some renovations. This ties into this the DOT New Jersey Transit grant or appropriation that came out. I think it was last year. I was not able to attend the meeting. They had a kickoff meeting. Did you make that meeting, Greg? But OEM was there and others were there, so I just didn't make a meeting. I was out of pocket. Let me see if there's anything else. Fire, let me mention that fire and first aid. First aid, the operational period ending September 27th, the squad responded to 23 day calls and 14 night calls with a total of 37 calls. 24 were for medical calls and 8 for fire calls, 5 out of town mutual aid responses. The squad conducted 1 drill for the safety and education of the membership. The squad provided medical overwatch for the hydros walk of 910. I'm not going to try to say it because I tripped over it the last time. Squad requested 1 mutual aid from Neptune EMS. Squad fulfilled 99% of their assignments for the operational period. For the fire department, for the operational period ending September 27th, the department responded to 8 requests for the department. The department conducted 2 training drills and education for the members. The department fulfilled 100% of their assignments for the operational period. We're still looking for volunteers for fire and first aid. As always, both are free training with qualified individuals. Anybody wishing for volunteer for fire or first aid can be found on the borough's website. Also, there continues to be great cooperation that exists between fire and first aid, allows us to keep answering our citizens' needs. That's the report for the fire and first aid. And with that, I will turn it over to Councilwoman Finola.
All righty. So I attended the Bradley Beach Board of Education meeting on September 19th, and they honored a teacher, Allison Zielinski, for the New Jersey Coalition for Inclusive Education. They include children with disabilities are 100% included. And in fact, they had a film that day. And it was quite inspirational. And afterward, a parent got up and said, my child entered this school with he couldn't even talk. He was nonverbal in pre-K. And by 8th grade, he starred in a school play. And he also was presenting at the graduation. So it's quite amazing that these kids really have a chance to succeed. And I also want to talk about just the Board of Ed. They're a great bunch of people. They have committees that meet beforehand. So the meetings are very quick. and to get things done. I'd love to see committees brought back to here that we used to have too, and maybe our meetings would be a little shorter. As far as tourism, they're planning a free movie in the park. They did this last year. It was Sandlot. It was a huge success. So they're looking at October 20th for the movie Hocus Pocus. The PTA would be there and they would sell snacks. Unfortunately, she submitted this to the VA and this has been denied. No reason has been given. Shade tree, their planting is September 20th. Looks like 25+ trees will be planted
What was that date? I'm sorry.
for the shade tree.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. They had a meeting September 20th. Thank you. The planting will be October 14th. Looks like we're gonna be planting over 25 trees. We're gonna meet at Fountain Park. Does anybody know where Fountain Park is? Kind of a fun fact here. It's between 2nd and 3rd Avenue in the 600 block. There's a fountain on that park. And if you look at some maps, it's referred to as Fountain Park. So we'll meet there. And then, I don't know, the mayor didn't bring this up, but despite the council's advice and consent, and despite all the residents' feedback, Mayor Fox has unilaterally chosen Council President Meredith DeMarco as our new acting business administrator. We received an email this week. And of course, I said, you know, I had some issues with this, especially I questioned the ethics of hiring a newly elected sitting councilwoman and with a lack of any experience as a VA and a lack of any foundational degrees. And the mayor questioned and said, I don't think there's an ethics issue. So I thought about this. What are ethics? Ethics are they provide a framework for making decisions and evaluating actions based on shared understanding of what is morally acceptable. Then I thought about it. It's more about morals. And I'm a person with good morals. I like to do things right. So morals are deeply ingrained beliefs and values that guide our decision-making processes and shape our character. They reflect an individual's unique perspective on what is right and what is wrong. And I ran for council because I thought it was right. I met with people, I shook hands, they gave me money, and I won. And I thought, I'm gonna do something right. I wanna do something right. I wanna serve for 3 years. And I took an oath. I got a paper that even told me that I'm councilwoman for 3 years. And I'm gonna be up here for 3 years because I wanna do what's right. I promised everybody I'm doing what's right. So I interviewed 3 people for the business administration position. And there was one that was really right. He had a lot of experience. He had a degree, a master's degree in public administration. And I selected that person. In fact, my other colleagues selected that person because that's what's right, right? But then you look at this, ethical guidelines can be manipulated or exploited to serve ulterior motives without a solid foundation of personal morals. Individuals may bend ethical rules to suit their interests. So the council voted for a very highly qualified individual. Hold on. I'm gonna fix that because that's what's right. And you fixed it. I did. See, I'm serving the residents as I promised for 3 years. And the residents expressed their displeasure, or as the resident, as the mayor calls you, surrogate. The resident expressed their displeasure with Mayor Fox's election of Council President Meredith DeMarco. Yet, we were all ignored by Mayor Fox. The Bradley Beach residents, you deserve the best. We pay a lot of taxes, more taxes than ever. And this is a very, very highly paid position. We deserve the best. We are getting ripped off. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Councilman Gubatose.
I'd like to begin my comments by also thanking Mr. Fehrenbach. Greg, I'm sure probably more than any other council person, maybe aside from the mayor, I must have driven you largely crazy over your tour with us. And I appreciate that you always handle my questions, sometimes my challenges very professionally. And as we both go on from this world to be neighbors and residents, I hope you'll forgive some of my challenges, but I definitely appreciate the effort that you put in on our behalf. I have a police report from Detective Lieutenant Terry Browning. A subject was arrested for child endangerment following an investigation into a single car accident. An officer from our K-9 unit was deployed to assist Neptune Township Police Department on a narcotics investigation during a traffic stop. The assist revealed positive results with drugs, crack, cocaine, and drug paraphernalia being found inside the vehicle. So, once again, a fairly intense report from our police. As liaison to the Sylvan Lake Commission, the commission, I was able to attend their meeting last week, last Wednesday, on September 20th. And they announced that they have geese solutions in place that appear to be working, and it's quote unquote amazingly well. The very effective new methods include using green lasers. Apparently geese really hate green lasers, and a number of the members of the commission said they purchased these for $9.95 from Amazon, and individual residents are going out shooting green lasers at the geese. And the geese are taking off, apparently, not coming back. They also have a dog. This individual apparently also has a dog, and he also has a motor, and I think I mentioned this last meeting, also has a motorized boat, and he drives this boat that supposedly is about a couple feet long and the solid entity. He just basically attacks the geese with the boat, and they don't like it and they leave. So all these residents who are on this commission live nearby, and they said, you know, in 1 month's time, they're amazed at how clean the surrounding property has become. And they turned to me as the liaison and said, boy, we hope the borough will continue to support this cost for having this type of service. I made no commitments, but certainly, you know, it was a glowing report. And they brought up, and I thought this was a good point, that perhaps the borough should look into concerns at Fletcher Lake, Mr. Weber. I believe you're the liaison there. And to the extent geese are remaining a problem there, there may be some consideration given to using this service for both of our lakes. They also said the herons and the swans are back, which they are very excited about. I personally have not seen them, but it sounds great. And on the downside, they said the Avon side of the lake has a serious problem with Phragmites. And Phragmites are an invasive species of perennial weed grass. You spell Phragmites, because I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it until I spelled it correctly. Phragmites, but do not spell it with an F. And this invasive weed is pretty problematic on the Avon side. We just have sparse elements of Phragmites on the Bradley Beach side at this moment. However, they're weeds and they grow like weeds. And what the commission, which is based on membership of Bradley residents and Avon by the Sea residents, they said, boy, it would really be good if Bradley Beach could look at tag teaming with Avon in the removal of these Phragmites, because Avon's moving forward to remove them from their shoreline. And we have a much smaller amount, but if ours are left after Avon removes theirs, the lake is one ecosystem. And any Phragmites we have ultimately will grow on our side and ultimately will spread back to Avon. So they've asked that we, the borough of Bradley Beach, reach out, look into, they're going to talk to Avon as well, but look into some sort of a collaborative effort to remove all the Phragmites in the lake. And if the cost makes sense for the borough, hopefully, you know, we'll have a chance as a council to evaluate that. The Sylvan Lake Commission is also hoping to partner with the Shade Tree Commission, Mr. Weber and Ms. DeNoble, Because they have almost 30 diseased ash trees around Sylvan. And they believe that the shade tree, they've been working with Nick Gorsuch.
Oh, good.
And they believe that there's more they can do to partner with the Shade Tree Commission to replenish trees around Sylvan Lake. So I leave that with my colleagues that are liaisons to the Shade Tree Commission. Okay, next, I want people to know, Mr. DeNovo referenced this moments ago, that the mayor sent the council an email 2 days ago. In it, he stated his reasons for planning to move forward with the appointment of Ms. DeMarco as an acting business administrator. He described his rationale for moving forward, which is his prerogative to do, and he, supports Ms. DeMarco as his choice. However, I took great exception to a few of the mayor's condescending, arrogant, and disrespectful comments, all of which were directed towards me, Councilwoman DeNoble, and Councilman Weber. Specifically, the mayor told us, the three of us, that we should rethink our power of 3 votes. He said, this is not what government is about, and that doesn't serve the greater good. In my response to the mayor, I reminded him that his so-called power of 3 votes is often referred to as democracy. Perhaps the mayor should read more about democracy. I encouraged him to spend more time collaborating and less time leading divisively. Most importantly, I want to share with the public how the mayor closed his admonishments to us. He said to the council, so please call off your surrogates. This was obviously referencing residents who speak out against the mayor in town council meetings or on social media. Surrogates. I continue to be struck by the mayor's total and complete disdain for so many of our residents, people who he has sworn an oath to support. He clearly believes that people who oppose him do not have minds of their own. In the mayor's eyes, people who speak against him must be reading from a script that I or one of my council colleagues have prepared. Mr. Mayor, your contempt for our many residents, simply because they do not agree with you, is evidence of the worst form of leadership. I realize that there is little I can do to change this. I just want to do a better job of making the public aware of your contempt. Finally, I have a very important point of concern that I want to raise publicly. It's related to the imminent appointment of Council President DeMarco as an acting business administrator. The mayor is about to appoint Ms. DeMarco as an acting BA under Code Section 514J, which states, whenever a vacancy exists in any office required by the charter or by this chapter to be filled by the mayor with advice and consent of the Borough Council, and there's no holdover incumbent, the mayor may temporarily fill such vacancy. Underscored temporarily. In the absence of any contrary provision in the charter, general law, or in this chapter, by appointing an acting officer, underscore acting, such appointment shall have all the functions, powers, and duties of the office until it shall be permanently filled. Any such appointment, it goes on, but the important words there are temporarily fill a vacancy. It's an acting officer. It shall be have the powers and duties of the office until permanent. Why do I say this? Because it's my understanding that the only way to classify the business administrator role as permanent would be to secure the advice and consent of this council. Without this consent, the mayor's plan is to continue to reappoint Ms. DeMarco every 90 days or so as a temporary acting BA. As far as I can tell, the mayor believes he can do this indefinitely. My concern for Ms. DeMarco and for you, Mr. Mayor, as noted under 5-14J, is that Ms. DeMarco's role will be classified as temporary, a temporary full-time employee. Under our Borough Code 78-2, titled Personnel Record Card Probationary Period, Full-Time, Part-Time, and Temporary Employees, it clearly states that only permanent full-time employees are entitled to paid holidays, that's section 78-4, and paid vacations, that's section 78-5. Not only should this raise concerns about Ms. DeMarco's benefits eligibility for holidays and vacations, but this can clearly lead to questions as to whether the acting business administrator role will be eligible for statutory benefits such as pension benefits. I'm not sure if it has been contemplated by the mayor that this role may not provide benefits. I guess it really doesn't matter, in that I just wanted to raise the question for all to consider tonight. Mr. Mayor, you have chosen to pursue somewhat unorthodox means by which to accomplish your goal of hiring Ms. DeMarco to be the borough's business administrator. Such an unusual plan is likely to encounter policy inconsistencies, concerns, and challenges, either from this council or from the state of New Jersey. I wanted to provide this information as full disclosure of the potential risks that Ms. DeMarco might face if you complete her appointment as acting business administrator over the next few days. Out of respect for Ms. DeMarco, I am making the statement now instead of waiting until after her planned appointment date of October 1st, 2023. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Weber.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'd like to start out by thanking Greg. Sorry, thank you. He'll give yours one day. You gave us a great deal on your services, and I think you got a great deal more than you bargained for. So appreciate you hanging in there with us. I appreciate that, you know, you answered my questions. I may not have always liked your answers, but it was a new experience to get all my questions answered by an administrator. So that was really good for me. I wish you the best of luck. I hope to see you around town, not doing the things that I've been seeing you do here and doing fun things, and maybe share some of those times with you, but really appreciate the steady hand you brought to the borough for the last, I guess it's been like 6 months. So. Shade tree, I will just add to what Mr. Noble said. Yes, we're planting trees. If you want to help plant trees, see me. I'm going to coordinate the volunteers like I've done in the past. You could see Jane, but email me if you want. And I understand there is a vacancy on the Shade Tree Commission. It's for an alternate, but this position has been vacant for months. I understand somebody has applied, so I look forward to a future meeting where we're filling that vacancy. That would be great. On Fletcher Lake Commission, they have noticed that all varieties of motorized vehicles going over the footbridge. So they would like signage prohibiting that, just to bring you along on the journey here. If you want a sign and you want the police to enforce it, you need an ordinance. And since we're talking about 2 towns, the bridge goes from one town to the other. We need an ordinance from both towns. So both towns are working on this. We are coordinating with the attorney in Neptune, and so that should be forthcoming down the road, and that should make people on the Fletcher Lake Commission happy, because they are unhappy that people are taking all sorts of motorized vehicles over the bridge. So it's a footbridge, you can ride pedal powered bicycle, and there will be an exception for a motorized wheelchair, but that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I welcome the comments, work, whatever advice from Sylvan Lake, and I will talk to Fletcher Lake about geese. They have not talked about geese or geese problems, so I don't know if that's a concern for them. But for all we know, these geese are leaving Sylvan Lake and flying to Fletcher Lake, so maybe we should be able to look at it. But well, that's it for that part of the report. I will just say one other thing, since people are chiming in on big things like democracy and all that stuff. In the, what do they call that? The flow chart, the organizational chart that is the borough of Bradley Beach. You folks are at the top. The voters are at the top. Do not forget that. Okay, you gave us our jobs, so for 3 people or the power of 3 or whatever to be discounted, it is disappointing, but You folks are at the top and just don't forget that. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Council President DeMarco.
The land use board met on September 21st and approved bulk variance for addition and renovation to existing home and bulk variances to retain an existing fence height. And again, the Environmental Commission would like to invite everyone to the annual Fall Beach Sweep being held on Saturday, October 21st from 9 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. You can volunteer for the entire time or just a few hours, whatever you can give, we'll happily take. We'll be meeting at the Fifth Avenue gazebo. All volunteers are encouraged to bring their own bucket for trash collection, as this helps to reduce the number of plastic bags used, and all other materials to clean the beaches will be provided. Thank you, that's my report.
Thank you. Somebody say something?
Somebody out there, yeah. I don't know what to say.
Before we move to public comments, I do have to just make a few comments because they just can't go, some of the comments made here just can't go unchecked. I'll start with Councilwoman DeNoble. I don't need any lectures about a moral code or ethics. I believe that I've operated my whole career and continue to operate with a moral code. So I don't appreciate, I take exception to the implication that you talked about earlier. So I just wanted to get that on the record. Secondly, I don't have a disdain or contempt for any residents in this town, and this. Sorry, can I get the word, please? Councilman Gubitosi said that, and that's just not the case. He's said that to me a few times, and I've come back to him each time and said, I have no contempt for any resident in this town. Every resident in this town should be treated equally. We have a great town, and it's unfortunate that he takes comments and kind of throws them around there. The last point I'd make is the power of three. I didn't make that up. That came from Councilman Weber last year, which really got us into the situation that we got into with appointments. The change of ordinances and saying that, well, we're going to get appointment power by doing this, and we have three, and have a nice day. That's not something I made up. It's something that came from Councilman Weber. You might want to check Facebook for his favorite song, the number 3. So with that, we'll open the public comments. Yes. Greg, you're gonna feel any questions that we have to just log in. We'll log those in because we are running kind of late at 9:15.
My time. Dr. Tom McGuire, 610 Brindley Avenue. So that statement they just made about how did he take it out of context by calling us surrogates? By you calling us a faction because we disagree with what you say? I think you have an absolute disdain for us. And I know
I'm sorry, last thing.
I don't interrupt me. If you can't hear me, then pay attention.
Okay? I'm trying to pay attention.
Yeah, do a better job at it. Do a better job of it. Okay?
Calm down.
No, I will not calm down. Don't tell me to mind my tone, anything like that. Follow the First Amendment. I can say whatever I want. I'm not using curse words. I'm not using anything that's verbally assaulting you. So you chill out, okay? So what I want to say now is that when you say these things that you don't have the disdain for anything, I hope everyone you just separated all of these people here that come here and talk against you. You just separated them. They're calling us surrogates. Do you even know what that means? If you want to interrupt me now. What does a surrogate mean?
You're making your comments.
Oh, now you're going to shut up. Good job.
Yeah.
So I can't believe you did this. It's terrible what he's doing. My next question is, how do we fill her vacancy?
Yeah.
How?
We go through a nomination process.
Next meeting, do we do that?
Yes.
Okay, so when you put the fourth person up there, what's the power that they have now as far as controlling people who get hired and fired here?
No more power than the rest of us, whatever that power is.
So what I mean by that, is there a way to get rid of the acting VA?
So if he appoints her, there's nothing that you guys can, nothing that the council can do.
Well, we're going, all of us are just continuing to understand the situation. It's kind of an emerging, evolving situation.
Okay, so I'll ask Mr. Kenny, since he's the lawyer. Mr. Kenny, is there any way that the council can have any control over, what's called appointments? Say if they're really unhappy with you, you're the worst lawyer in the world, but you're not. If they decide to get rid of you, if they wanted to, could they get rid of you without the mayor?
I'm the easiest to fire, because I'm a lawyer. Ethically, I can't represent the client, doesn't want to be represented.
Yes.
So the mayor has the power of acting appointments and,
Yeah.
and if the position is vacant, the mayor can appoint the same person back to that position, so effectively, no.
So no, the council, they can't do anything.
Not under the current state of the law and the court decision, no. Not for acting appointments, it's different than a permanent appointment,
But temporary, they can't do anything about it.
no, it's in your code.
That's awesome. I think it's terrible what you're doing. I think you're hiring the wrong person. I know, in your letter, you probably say wonderful things that mean absolutely nothing. Her job experience is absolutely atrocious. I mean, if I'm hiring a doctor, why don't you apply for my job? I'm gonna hire for a doctor's. Guess what? You're not qualified. You have zero experience, you have zero, schooling for that position, but would you apply for my job? It's the same job. Meaning that it has requirements and it has an education behind it. You don't have it, and he's fluffing you up big time, and you don't have it, and I'm sorry. And this is terrible, and I wish we can keep Mr. Farabach on. I think he's excellent, he's doing such a great job, and I do not think you can even come close to what he's doing for us, and we need help in this town. As Councilwoman DeNoble said, we're in a code red, we're trying to cut money. The mayor is just obfuscating all of our ordinances, not putting out the ordinance into the what's called our what was this, the agenda out in time, it should have been out on, when should have been on our ordinance? Friday, when did it come out? Monday, against our ordinance, deciding to just do whatever you want with what, am I wrong? No, no, you can wait till after I'm done. So the other thing is that you decided to just do whatever you want with our tourism money, and you keep saying, oh, I want to change the ordinance. That really sounds like more of a power grab, which you're obviously really good at doing. And you can chuckle about that, but that's what you're doing. You're obfuscating your council and you're deciding to just unilaterally decide to hire Mr. Marco, which I just can't believe this. I can't. My wife should apply for this job because I think she's probably more qualified than her and she could be making $130,000. So that's all I have to say, but you're doing a terrible job, Mayor. And I hope you do good. But I hope you also get fired really quickly too, because I don't think you deserve this job. There's a way that the council can find to not have her on here. That'd be wonderful. Because nothing personal. I don't think you're qualified for it. I think you should be removed immediately once you step foot and you resign and you can do something about it. Thank you very much.
Dr. McGuire, just regarding the agenda, I actually did follow up with our clerk Erica, and she said it was actually an oversight of her. She posted it Friday as it should have been posted. Unfortunately, accidentally posted it to the wrong section of our website.
There was nothing personal. I just wanted my time.
No, but I wanted to explain.
That's fine. I just wanted you to do it after my time. That's all.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
Excuse me. My name is Rosemary Curso. I live at 415 Park Place Avenue.
415
Park Place.
Park Place.
Mr. Mayor, I'm a surrogate and I have a mind of my own. I don't listen to Jane, Mr. Gubitosi, or Mr. Weber. I think for myself. Secondly, Mr. Marco, if I was you, I would withdraw my name. Because you do not have the qualifications, you do not have the education. And I'm not putting you down for that. But you have to realize, lacking both of those things, when the mayor doesn't get reelected, because you know he won't get reelected, the town's had enough of him. You will be out the door the minute the new mayor starts. So if I was you and you want to remain in politics, I would stay as a council member and I would withdraw my name. That is the smartest thing you could do at this moment. And Mr. Mayor, I like being a surrogate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right, Nancy Meadow, Ocean Park condominiums. I'll be getting never rid of this. Welcome to Bradley Beach. I don't know where to begin. I had just the notes from August still left over, but look what happened tonight. Let's go with this. This is posted and it's a meeting of the council business meeting. There is no place in this meeting for employee comments, period, end of statement from me. Number two, payroll. It makes me sick that you ran on a platform where you put business and employees first. So don't tell me, thank you, Mr. Weber, we are the top, but we're treated like we're not even the bottom, we're under the bottom. Do not even tell me you promote business and employees, and yet you are banking their payroll through a bank that is not in Bradley Beach. That is disgusting. And add to that the fact that there was the potential to have a subcontractor paid through payroll. Thank God that never went through. And may I add to that, that while you're on the search for that company with the $17,000, I don't know if this is helpful or not, maybe you have, but I might look at Web Alliance and their bills. Are we gonna give DPW a contract? I hear nothing about that. That's sickening. I went to the website for lots of stuff, and I distinctly remember a past VA, and it's interesting to me that people up there mention employee names, and I come here and never mention an employee name. But we had a VA who told us we couldn't have liaisons last year. And if you go to the website now and go under mayor and council, it lists websites for this year. Okay, that person is pretty much not here. But it lists liaisons for 2022. How did that happen when we couldn't have liaisons? So let's discuss the website. Which you bring it up. And you get the banner, which I told you is not properly punctuated. And then you get the little yellow boxes. And then you get what I don't understand, the big alerts and special announcements. And then you scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, because the only special alert is about the taxes that weren't paid. And you keep going, because you're thinking maybe there's an announcement, how far do you have to go to find one? And yet there was nothing regarding the storm that came. And in my opinion, DPW has the right to pull those lockers prior to the end of the month. And you're saying we couldn't have them? Well, then, you know what? I wouldn't have emptied mine. But I guess I lost out on that. That website, and we're paying 2 people and a company? What is the matter with this town? Well, again, I'm glad you're listening and saying we need to stop it. Then stop it. Stop spending money. Stop signing a purchase order. And that should be your first thing. Do not allow this CFO now, who's now got the purchasing power, to stop spending our money. And now we're paying 2 people for tourism direction, a tourism director and an employee. Really? For a position that was mostly volunteer? I don't have the proper vocabulary to state here what I am feeling. You know, with the FEMA bit and the money we have to give back, it is no secret to me and one of you up there that we never requested enough money to begin with to get back from them. So I'm a little just perturbed that we're giving money back now, because we know we didn't get what we really spent. I'm so thrilled that I was listened to once. And after last month's meeting, the last week meeting, 9 missing newsletters mysteriously appeared on the website. That was a very quick response to action. But the point remains that we pay someone to do that and they didn't do their job. I am so sick of that. Because when I do my job, I am giving 150%. And all I'm asking for is 100%. And if they can't do it and don't do it, fire them, union or not.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm not surrogate, I'm not trying to. Sorry.
Kristen Mahoney, 200 Green Avenue. All the words I'm about to speak are my own. I'm not gonna attribute them to anybody else. I wanted to thank, the mayor and Meredith. From my seat in this gallery, I've had a front row seat to the machination of true politicians. That's not a good thing. It's been an eye-opening show. One that I really would prefer never to have been a witness to. Meredith, your Machiavellian ascent and entree into Bradley Beach's employ is something that concerned me last week. And I will continue to view it with consternation and concern. Mayor, when you were elected, you wrote, "In conclusion, I will disappoint some of you as we go forward. That is the cost of progress. I hope we get most of it right. I'm sure you will let me know." Not that you will listen. But let me leave you with two thoughts. First, a philosopher once said, "Perfect is the enemy of good." That translates to, if you don't know, for want of perfection, a task is never completed. I assure you, this will not happen. We need to make steady progress as a community. Second, we will listen to the concerns and desires of our residents and try very hard to achieve the collective desires of our community. I feel like these are all false words from you. I don't feel like you ever listen to anyone who comes to this room and speaks at this podium. I don't feel like you listen to your constituents. I don't know what you meant when you said these words. Just because perfection is the enemy of the good does not mean your only option is to throw crap at the wall and see what sticks.
Thank you. Someone else? Yes.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. Mayor, I just want to get confirmation that, I don't know how things work here, but I sent a letter Wednesday the 20th, and I never got a response from anybody. I went to the office and asked Ms. Costa, she said nobody responded. So I want to put 2 benches in front of the building at 401 Main Street. And I was expecting like someone, "Hey, I got the letter, I got the email, we'll review it." I got nothing. Just trying to do something good here, but it's tricky. And also, I want to say that I'm the one who applied to the Shade Tree Commission over a month ago to Chairman Bagwell, and he said he spoke to you, Mayor, but you had some concerns. So could you tell me what the concerns are?
I didn't speak to Mr. Bagwell. Mr. Bagwell and I are going to have a meeting on a couple of things in the coming week.
Oh, okay, so is that gonna be imminent? I should wait or? I mean, I know all residents are treated equally, as you say, so I just wanna make sure I'm being treated equally. I'll look forward to hearing about that. Mayor, I also I got a lot here, this is good. You had the thing about the movie theater in your newsletter, that's a private business. There are a lot of other private businesses on Main Street that have been renovated and have opened and they don't get a plug. You just give a plug to the one that you try to give 50,000 a year for 7 years. So I find that interesting. It's really unfair to the other businesses. Yeah, we want the movie theater, that's great, but there's other businesses that are struggling and you could use some PR also. This whole thing here is really sad with Mr. Marco. I'm disappointed in both of you actually. But I was reviewing the ordinances and I'm just tricky. The ordinance that Councilman Gubitosi referenced previously, 78-2. Item D, temporary employees, and that's the operative word here, temporary, may be hired by the supervisor with approval of mayor and council. Now, that is in our ordinance there, Mr. Cannon, so I'll leave that to you, but we'll have other legal minds look at that also. Again, it's very disappointing on many levels, and Mr. Fernbeck, I was just wondering, you mentioned about the CFO. Is there an educational component in the CFO advertisement in the municipalities?
I believe there is.
You're not sure.
There's an experience, I can't remember it verbatim. But there's a requirement for a certified municipal finance officer certification, which the Division of Local Government Services requires for the position of CFO.
And does that require them to have an abacus too? Thank you very much, Mayor.
Yes. I'll get you next month there.
For having it's been very difficult for me, and I just want to make sure is that. Okay, and I would appreciate it if the mayor would be on speaking.
Yes, I'm listening. Good.
You're not looking at.
Yeah, I'm taking notes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Good.
The older I get, the more I realize that a child blames everybody for everything else and assumes no responsibility for their own ability. And quite frankly, your behavior is childlike. I have never seen you assume responsibility for anything that is that has become dysfunctional in this town. And thank you for looking at me now. Number two, one thing I learned in my career was that the more controlling you are, you're insecure about something. And I think you need to pay attention to that because you're controlling, you're causing dysfunction, and you're causing division within our community. And quite frankly, I feel as though you owe the residents of this town who spent their time volunteering, coming to these meetings, doing research to make our town better, and you call us surrogates. You owe us an apology.
Thank you. Yes.
Brigitte McGuire, 610 Burnley Ave. Proud to be surrogate number one that you love to call on last in my arms of one night. A tip for TJ, maybe ask Meredith what it takes to get the shade tree position. FEMA audit question, how much did they give us? How much did we use? I'd love that information at some point. Mayor, you indeed acted on a loophole. You're going to continue acting on this loophole every 90 days. Loophole, loophole, loophole. It's exactly what you're doing. You hated the word. It's exactly what you're doing. Meredith, your question about bills to be paid earlier tonight to Mr. Fehrenbach is a prime example that you are not qualified for this position. We don't have to tell you that over and over. You know it. Your votes this evening were sad. Why? Because it shows one of two things. How much control you've been under up until today, or how much of a puppy dog you've been to get this job. I'm sure you've been coached to just take the punches, keep your eye on the prize. You ran as a proud, young, independent female, and all you are of that is young, and you're a disgrace to young women. A new word to add to our list that gets thrown around town, surrogate. I'm proud. I'm proud to know that Mayor Fox, I reached out to you and met you before I ever met Councilman Gubitosi. And what led me to meet Councilman Gubitosi was that you lied. You lied in the emails I posted. The facts are out there after Recyclegate. They're out online, so they're out there. Just want you to know, I went to you first as the mayor of this town. I met you before I ever met him. And you stand up here and call, and I stand up here while you call us all surrogates in closed emails. Why don't you call us all your little names while you're sitting up there, so arrogant and so nasty to everybody? You say you don't have a disdain, bring it out. Why leave it in emails to the council? Tell us how you feel. Tell us how you feel. Why does it have to come out through council emails? It's pathetic. You're a coward, and you've been told that already before by other people. What do you call the people who support you? Oh wait, there's not many here anymore. They've dwindled down. And the power of three, I don't care where you got that quote from, you still used it. It's the most asinine remark by a man who consistently works off the power of one. You're a dictator, you're a czar, and you suck.
Yes, so.
William Shook, one of in Bradley Beach. Last mayor and council meeting, I distributed COVID-19 test kits. Only to find out that on social media, apparently people who weren't listening too well at the council meeting, that there was an expiration date on those that was extended to December 15th of December 2023. And I specified that to everybody, but yet somebody has the nerve to go on social media and say, oh, wow, look, the borough's giving us COVID-19 test kits that are expired. Well, I just want everybody to know they expired December 15th of this year. And that was what was said to us by Monmouth County Health Department and the CDC. So whoever posted false information, please stop.
It wasn't false.
It was false.
Oh,
I put December there.
thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, just stay there, okay, all right. Linda Duffy, 312 Brindley Avenue. First I'd like to comment on, we like things to be smooth in this town. I would think that we need to get along. You all took an oath, you went to that class, that nice woman spoke to you to get along, and obviously it hasn't worked. So maybe we can try a little bit harder, some of us. All right, as far as the yellow curve markings go, they made them smaller again. I noticed across the street where the old line was, it's half the size. Did you give them direction? To make them smaller?
I'd have to refer that to the chief of police and Captain Arnold, who takes care of the traffic. I don't have that.
Yeah, because I noticed
did-
that when
I
I was
did notice
parked
there
by,
was-
it's by Ugo.
I think what you're more looking at is
The setback,
yeah,
the
I don't.
side triangle is.
I'd have to refer, I'll refer
Okay.
to Captain Arnold, I have to get a hold of you, but
All right,
there
thank
was,
you very
but there was some questions that were raised on our part as well
Okay,
about.
the Biasi Center, what's going on with that, a little mold? We should be made aware of that now, shouldn't we?
We're in the process of, we're in a couple days away from where that is.
Originally, you didn't think there was gonna be a problem, I'm pretty glad to, but okay, we have a mold problem, so
Oh, no,
What-
we're
what
not,
companies
we're
do
not,
we
we're not,
hire to remove the
excuse me,
mold?
no. Please don't say we have a mold problem. We said we had a mold problem when this all came about, and we did, and we do. All we're trying to do is ensure that the testing is comprehensive and that the fixes we put in are certified and all that good stuff. So there's no,
So if we're just waiting for testing, how come it's gonna take another month?
because some of the testing is requiring to do some things around the ceiling, and we have to do some things in the ceiling.
So it's still in repair, okay. So the rec center has, their website and they have Mahjong for $100. Come on. Is that the cost? I don't think so. I don't even think the Ocean Township website has Martin for $100 to learn how to play. Is that a typo? Does anybody know?
Don't know, we can follow.
Ma'am,
Oh, you may know, no.
the recreation director ran it by me. The issue is that we want to make sure that it's going to be able to cover the costs of the program. The cost of the program will run approximately $1,200. And there will need to be 12 residents to participate in order to be able to cover the costs. Yes, she has calculated it out, and that was as low as she could bring it in order for it to be self-sustaining.
I don't know how many people are gonna sign up for that.
I don't know either.
Okay, so, the other thing is, I kind of really find it disturbing that tourism committee doesn't run tourism. It's not really, why are we paying her and an assistant now when somebody else wants to take control of it? Why are we paying them? Because all the events that we have in town basically are for tourists, they're really partly for us, but mostly for tourists. And we really don't have any events during the winter, just a couple. The bonfire is one of the big ones, everybody loves that. The play was good at the school was really good, the fire, the Christmas tree lighting is nice. But basically we spend thousands and thousands of dollars on summer tourists. Maybe we need to cut it back a little bit. Because those restaurants are booked every weekend. You can't even get in. During the winter, you can't even get in. You have to go to the 5 o'clock thing to get in. So maybe we need to rethink on how much money we're gonna spend next time, because maybe we're gonna go to once a week garbage collection as a cutback in services, because we can't afford anything else in town. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know, I don't even know how to get home. Don't worry about it. Sit down.
Linda, what'd you do?
What'd you do?
She thinks she broke her foot.
No.
I don't know if we got a turn.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I may have.
Okay,
There are people on Zoom.
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to?
let's go to Zoom, let's go.
Okay, come on up.
I would like to, first of all, thank all the people who are here today, because we care about this town. And we all have opinions, and our ages may make different what we go. But this is a very nice town, and we're all here because of the town. And I would like to thank the council. It's a lot of work. There, you have a lot of things to go through. And it's very good because you're here to represent the people and our goals. And it is unfortunate for these things which don't seem to gel, but. And also, we seniors are the second largest group, and when you voted on the church, we were the second largest group. And I think we deserve a little bit more respect, a little bit more communication. But all in all, I like this town, and I think everybody here likes this town, and we're here because of that. And I hope it can become a nice family town and not tourists. We don't need to be tourists. They go to the beach, fine, and leave the beach alone. The beach speaks for itself. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have people on.
Is there anybody else in the audience?
Erica, we have people on Zoom, please. Erica, did you go to Zoom?
Yes, okay. We have.
I'm not saying you can't go back there, but. Yes.
Some people kind of team for that, you know. Thank you, Jane, Al, and John. If you want to continue being a thorn in the side of the mayor and soon to be RBA, we welcome you, we support you. You're doing everything you can to just save our money. Meredith, I understand exactly why you're taking the role. Who wouldn't want to double their salary? I understand it completely. We all know sadly you're gonna fail, and that part of me feels bad.
because you're going to destroy your career, just based upon this, because it will travel with you wherever you go. So I do feel for that. I would hope you would have more gumption to say, you know what, as much as I want it, as much as it would probably change my life, it isn't the right thing for me, but we know that's not gonna happen. My one question to you though, and I do expect an answer tonight, is since you profess your love and appreciation for the town and everybody in the town, and that's what you sold yourself on. Are you promising to commit that you will still remain a resident for the entire time you are a BA in this town?
I'm not answering that.
Oh, not, of course not, because you know why? We know that you want to quickly move out of town to Neptune with your
You
significant
don't
other.
answer it.
Yeah, don't worry, listen to him, he's gonna sell you down the river, you're already asked. Mr. Farrow, thank you for your time. No, it hasn't been easy, we wish you were staying, we do deserve someone confident. Do we have a time frame, or are we certain in terms of with Mr. Farrenbach leaving that we are not double dipping in the salaries? We're not keeping you on for an extended period of time, and we're not gonna be dipping into prior BA Kim Humphreys for any guidance and leadership on our unqualified BA? Or are we gonna end up being billed somehow, some way, or is money gonna go somewhere else that we're gonna be paying her more than we should be, even as a QPA?
So,
I'm not sure I understand your question, but if your question is, will I be paid
Right.
after September 30th? The
Mhm.
answer is no.
Okay, okay. Mayor, we really just, we're all tired, and we know we're all tired, but here's the deal, you're hoping we're tired. We're never giving up. We're never stopping. We're never gonna stop questioning. Mr. Marco, pull up the bootstraps. Like I said before, and you misquoted when I said, I don't want to hear about any of us. I didn't mean individual homeowners getting sued by Mr. Marco because you're getting harassed. You are going to go into the dragon's lair. We are going to want every question and every answer, and we're entitled to it. And it's not going to be harassment of any way, shape, or form. It's going to be, I want to know where my dollar is. And it shouldn't be very hard for us to just ask, what did you spend last week? What did you spend here? What did you spend there? So that is the least that you can give to us, if you're going to willingly go into this position the way you are.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on Zoom, we have Alice Harkin. Good evening, Ms. Harkin.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I have Alice Harkin, 409 McCabe.
Yeah.
I have three things I want to cover. One is a clarification from the last meeting I attended a couple of weeks ago, where I made a comment that was quoted in the CoStar, and I think it was a little bit misleading. Everybody that was at the meeting, everybody that was on Zoom probably knows where my comment was directed to. And it was directed to the mayor, not Ms. DeMarco, where I said you should take the next meeting from under your desk, not at your home or other office in the building. And unfortunately, when I read it, I was mortified because I would never make that comment about another woman ever. So it was at his cowardice for not being there for the public comments. I understood he has a sick family member. I'm sorry for that, but it was still, the optics were bad. So that's the first thing I want to say. Second is on the garbage and recycling, which I'm glad you voted down. It always offends the north side of town worse than the south, because that's the more affluent side of town. I live on McCabe. I have a wonderful house, but if you think about it, Mondays, Thursdays, Thanksgiving, holidays on those days, and that affects the north side of town. Also, the garbage and recycling yard is closed Mondays and Tuesdays, or Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I can't even remember these days, it all changes, but you can't even drop things off. So if you cannot get your garbage picked up, you can't get them dropped off. So please think of the entire town when you're doing these things to, I'm all for saving money. But again, $6,000 for garbage and recycling, when you paid $6,900 for the Latin Fest that nobody attended, or very few people attended. Mayor Fox, think before you do things. You are not representing the town. The last thing I want to say is, Mr. Marco, I'm sorry. I mean, I cannot believe that this mayor is going forward with this appointment. Thank you, Councilman Gubitosi, for bringing up the fact that if this is a 90-day appointment, can you even get benefits? You are a young woman. I'm sure I need benefits. I'm 60 years old and I almost lost my job this week because I have an asshole boss. Excuse my French language. I need benefits. 90 days appointment should be a 1099 or a contractor position, not a full-time position with town benefits. You should not get benefits. Is this what you want to do? I'm sorry, but this is a bad idea. Do better. This council, this president, this mayor needs to do better. Like I said to you before, I will make sure you never get reelected. Legally, I'm not threatening anything. I will campaign against you. I will never run for government because, my God, I could not be in this town council. Do better.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, next we have Mia Boland. Good evening, Mia.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Great. Okay. Mr. Mayor, why is your head always down when others are speaking? The rest of the council looks out into the public and listens to them. You will not make eye contact with anybody. Instead, you are busy in your own world. It's almost like a child going, la, 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 la. You just do not want to hear us. Shame on you, Mayor Fox.
I'm sorry, I'm on 11 pages of notes. What I try to do after each meeting is
Comments.
I'm just trying to clarify, you basically.
I need to take my time. The one thing that was appalling tonight is you saying that you spent the extra money for the Latin event, which was in excess of $6,000, because you feel the ordinance should be looked at again. I can't understand how you think that that is a reason to choose to spend taxpayer money. It makes absolutely no sense. That was your defense for doing that. I don't understand why you can't be penalized and have it come out of your own pocket. It's instead of the taxpayer's pocket. So just to continue from last week when I was claiming that you hadn't responded to my email, essentially your response to my question was that my question on why you called out Councilman Gubitosi's vote in the newsletter was that the church project was a very important issue for the public. So that's why you felt it was important to include it in the newsletter. So you chose to call out Councilman Gubitosi, who did not vote in line with you. The issue, and so today, the issue with who the best hire is for the BA is as important, if not more important, to the public. However, you did not publish the only vote to hire Mr. Marco in the newsletter. None of the other three council persons' votes were in line with you. Why did you choose not to publish this vote? And you have still not elaborated in any way what Mr. Marco's relevant qualifications are for the BA job. And how is it that Mr. Marco's votes for most of this year have any validity, including her votes tonight, when she secretly applied for the BA job where you are the hiring manager? Can Greg Cannoni, our lawyer, comment on this clear conflict of interest? Last, and this is directed to Ms. DeMarco, when you hear the questions asked to our current acting BA, including the one you asked tonight and other nights, do you really think you are capable of having answers for the council and the public when these questions are directed to you? I ask again, what are your relevant qualifications to oversee operations for our town? All I've heard is that you are really a good citizen. You like living in Bradley Beach. You're friendly and you have some work experience. We all had work experience at your age. We all have work experience past your age. It doesn't make us qualified to be a business administrator or head of operations for a multi-million-dollar budget in a town. You haven't even acknowledged or thanked the mayor for your appointment tonight. I took notice of that. It's amazing how it was announced that you have been appointed to this position, but yet you didn't even acknowledge it or thank it. Thank the mayor for appointing you into that position. You're starting off at an unprofessional level. Anyone who is given a job as a public servant and it's acknowledged in the public should thank the public for giving them that job. This is, and as mentioned already, this is a temporary position. It is going to be bad for your resume. I can't predict the future, but I sure as heck have a gut feeling that the mayor will not be reelected. What are you going to do at that point in time? You are going to not have your job anymore. I'm not sure if you're going to be getting these benefits. Maybe there's some loophole that allows you to have benefits, but I understand with the position you might have now, because you're working for a municipality in a clerk role, is that you might be paying into a pension. That's going to go away. And I have parents that get pensions, one that died this year. Those pensions continue. It's a great benefit. You're going to lose out on that. So I'm just giving an example, but did you give any thought to your future before taking this position? It's incredible that the mayor did not make the announcement about your new taxpayer-paid lucrative position. It must be that he realizes he has made an unethical decision. Why the heck he never said anything when he was doing announcements is mind-boggling to me. And that's really all it is. Where it's a very sad state of affairs. I love living in this town, but my stomach is turning that we actually are living under the thumb of a man who thinks he's king. I never thought I would be in this position. I come from New York City. There's more bureaucracy and things that affect me as an individual and my fellow neighbors going on than I ever experienced in the vast whole of New York City, where it was just a big entity. I'm shaking inside because of this decision that has been made, because I don't know what's next down the road before the mayor gets voted out.
Thank you.
No one should have this much.
Thank you.
Mr.
Next we
Gavin?
have,
Mr. Gavin,
yeah, Joe Fuller.
we have Tom Gavin. I see Tom Gavin out there.
Just let Tom go down, it's fine.
Yeah, he just came up.
Oh, he just came on?
Yeah. he just-
Oh, I'm sorry, then Joe, okay, I'm sorry.
Joe?
Hi, Joe Costantino, 621 4th Avenue, Bradley Beach. My questions or comments are mostly directed to Mr. Fehrenbach. Mr. Fehrenbach, thank you. I've watched and listened to you take and answer questions that I would never put my mind around and don't want to. It's kind of amazing. And to agree with Mr. Weber, I didn't like some of your answers, but you always had an answer. And even if that answer was, I'll get back to you with the answer, you did it. And thank you. Yeah, you're getting paid. That's great, but you're a resident. And your experience as laid out by the mayor, speaks volumes. I mean, I for one had no idea that it extended that far. So my question actually is, if you don't mind, if you could remove yourself and just have you and I in this room and have nobody else there, and having your experience that you've had and that you have and that was laid out, and then on top of that, having the experience of not only being a resident of Bradley Beach, but also being our interim BA. Would you, if it were you, be seeking qualifications similar or as close as you could get to your own, if for only the fact that you understand and know what's going on in this town? That is my question and my comment.
Yeah. Mr. Constantino, thank you for the comment. What I would say to you is that there is a need for one to review the various strengths and weaknesses of a series of candidates.
Yeah.
And as I said at the last meeting, and I still stand by, this is among the most difficult of the positions that I have held. For a variety of reasons, some of which have been enunciated earlier by some of the residents of this meeting. And one of the concerns that I have is that of the candidates that were under consideration, I'm not sure which of those candidates would be willing to stay here and continue to provide the kind of services that are needed for this community. The reason I stay is because I'm a stakeholder, because this is a community I've chosen to live in, and I have an ability to be able to apply what I've spent the last 50 years developing. And of the four most qualified of the candidates that existed for this position, I had significant concerns as to whether or not three of those would stay here very long.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tom Gavin?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, speak up a little bit.
Okay. Mr. Fehrenbach, the first thing is I want to thank you for your efforts for the borough of which you are a resident. Your history, your experience has not gone unnoticed. Your sound guidance and calm demeanor were tremendous to see in this continuing tempest. My only comment regarding the BA position is that Meredith ran with the thought of helping our borough in any way she could. That she's willing to step in and take on this position, that's a personal and an HR decision that I have to give her the respect for. And with Mr. Fehrenbach publicly stating that she was the best candidate, I believe it was the last meeting, gives me the confidence to support that choice. He is a man of great experience, and I would trust his judgment in this particular area. And again, thank you, Mr. Fehrenbach, for your time and for your efforts on behalf of us.
Thank you.
There's one more hand up.
I don't think
Yeah,
there is.
I'll
There it is. Randy's hand is,
Oh, Randy, okay.
it's like sideways.
Randy?
It's powerful already.
Randy, did you want to comment?
Yeah, you're muted. You're
You're
muted.
muted.
Let's
Can you
move on.
unmute yourself?
Is there any other comments?
Now,
from
it's Randy Bennell, 506 Third Avenue, Bradley Beach, New Jersey. I tried to fix the camera angle you guys are looking at right now, but I thought actually it was kind of apropos because I'm sideways and so is this town. Hey, Larry, did you sign an offer letter to Maren Bellick?
Did you sign an offer letter to Marin Bella?
Maren Bellick, did you sign an offer letter for her?
It says no.
Okay, so what's the basis for the $17,000? If there was no offer letter?
There's a purchase requisition.
Yeah, but you hired her as an employee without an offer letter? Did they do that at Johnson & Johnson? I don't think so. This is just another disservice that you have delivered to the residents of this town. I've been here, I first came to Bradley Beach in 1984. And I believe there's been 7 mayors, and I've seen 5 of them. You don't, you're the worst mayor this town has ever seen. Hands down. I wouldn't even call you a mayor. You're a buffoon.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna then move to close this section. We have a executive session. Motion to move to adjourn to executive session. Second.
Mr. Marco?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fontaine?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna do the same.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing in reinforcements there. Yeah.